Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Fistful of Dice. My name is Matt, and thank you for joining us for our first session of NOMAD, a Harbinger campaign. Harbinger is a 5th edition dark sci-fi fantasy setting and rule set that you can find links about in the description. So if at any point during this session you think you might want to check this out, there are a bunch of links down below, including a link to the free playtest so you can try it out yourself. This is a playtest, so all of the things that we're doing in this game, all of the rules, all of the classes and races and whatnot, they're all subject to change. I just want to say that out front. And this is also the 0.5 version of this playtest, which is not public yet. So you may see us doing some stuff or using some rules that you currently don't have access to. Namely, everyone has Harbinger-specific races and backgrounds in this party, which are not currently publicly available. So all that said, we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. Thank you for stopping by. I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves and talk a little bit about the characters that they have created for this game, talking about the origin and the class that they have chosen from the Harbinger playtest. So we're going to go from my left to right and go ahead and start with Barker.
Hi, everybody. So I am Barker, and I am playing Kurash. The origin of this character is in the Harbinger playtest known as Forgeborn. These are a people who are recently awakened, thousands of years before, under a global kind of, I'll call it an autocracy belonging to the Old Dominion. These people were used as slave labor, and now again, millennia later, they're beginning to wake up, and some are waking up into different lives, just into the world as it is now, with the known orbits and the many septs that rule such orbits. So this character is almost, I hate to say, more machine than man, really, but nearly. And the class that I will be playing is the Treader. I am excited to really be in the forefront of this Harbinger campaign. Combat-wise, I've never used a glaive in with any character whatsoever, and now I get to do it in this science fantasy setting that I've always wanted to play a campaign in. So thanks for running it, Matt, and I'm very excited.
Absolutely, man. All right, James, go ahead.
Today I am playing Briar Shand, a Voidborn mechanist. So Voidborn, he gets. I grew up on sort of a low gravity environment, maybe fake gravity somewhere around a place called the Drift Market, sort of a drifting, cobbled together sort of space station, I guess you could call it, that orbits something or other. And I am a mechanist, so that means I'm all about sort of salvage and how things work and upgrades and the Arc tool, which is sort of the Omni tool of the Harbinger universe. And it's going to be really exciting. I also get a scatter gun, which is like my favorite thing ever. And I love when stuff happens in space, so this is going to be really fun.
It's funny, Barker was going back and forth on what kind of pulsar weapon he wanted, and he was going to go scattergun, and I said, guaranteed 100% James already has a scattergun, so if you want to be different than him, maybe try something else.
I imagine I'd jump in, and we just all bust out these scatterguns, and we just be a scattergun crew, playtesting so intensely the scattergun
just
mechanic.
Making sure that works.
Listen, we're going to kickstart the scattergun for Harbinger. We're asking for 500 glint to have the scattergun. All right, Lloyd, go ahead, man.
Hello, I'll be playing Kai Atharva, who is a Voidborn born in space, atop the flagship of her house near Tharkestra, which is where the most dominant of the septs is based. Kai is a Mancer, which is like a funky space wizard. I cannot wait to get really, really funky with it.
And I hope that you do. All right, Jeff, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I am playing Ansel Mayfield. He is a Moonborn, specifically of the desert variety, from just a terrible, miserable desert way out in the middle of nowhere. If you saw the session 0, we actually rolled that planet up on the moon generator, and it is a terrible, horrible place. So he kind of reflects that he is also a Mancer. He has found some strange Astra powers that he can use as well, and is going to be diving into that alongside Kai throughout the campaign.
Yeah, I was telling Lloyd earlier, I cannot wait to go to that moon. Like, we rolled it up, and it just sounds awful, and I can't wait to visit it. Okay, last but certainly not least, Tim.
So I am Tim. I'm really excited to be in this campaign. I am currently also playing a mechanist. So I think from a play test standpoint, it's going to be cool to see how James plays the character versus how I do. I'm going to tell you something that's a huge surprise. I also have a scattergun. So let's just get that out of the way. But I went with a Moonborn. And so I think what I'm doing is going to do a character who is like one of the plainsfolk of Tharkestra who worked their way up into the higher ranks of one of the septs. And so I'm also playing a mechanist. And specifically, the angle that I'm going to play is a character who treats Astra less magically than others, treats it more like electricity or steam power. It is a tool, it is a weapon, and it's hokum that a lot of other people worship it and use it as magic. And so I'm really excited to dig in and play this character. And his name is Randall Pierce.
Awesome. I'm so excited to get to know these characters. So let's just jump into it. Let's play some Harbinger. Bastion. The gas giant gleams a vibrant golden orange against the void of space, encircled by its prominent ring. Lit by the distant glow of two remote suns, Bastion is orbited by dozens of moons. And this is where the remnants of an ancient human empire have made their home, such as it is. Confined to these known orbits by a lack of means for interstellar travel, humanity clings to the splendor of the past, a time when men and women leapt across the stars in a blink of an eye. Those secrets and many others have been lost to time and war and famine, and now dangerous magic exists alongside dilapidated tech. Humanity survives now under the yoke of feudal houses called septs. These powerful noble families squabble incessantly, and the low folk of the known orbits often face the consequences of their petty feuds. In this dwindling age, from the darkest depths of the void beyond the known orbits, came the Harbinger. The Harbinger's true origin and purpose can only be guessed at, but it has reshaped the known orbits forever. As it appeared, the Harbinger collided with the forest moon of Vorloren, ridding its surface of all life and displacing the remnants of the once great sept Inua. Contained within its labyrinthine, non-Euclidean innards are untold secrets and world-changing technology, which have set the various factions of the known orbits into a race for dominance and control. But the Harbinger is not without its own horrors. From the violent Scrug warbands to the Arachnid-like Chrysalic who feed on magic itself, and still deeper within the Harbinger's maze-like confines wait ancient things of patient malice and unreckonable intent. But our story takes us far beyond the Harbinger, past the sovereign moon of Tharkestra, past the acidic oceans of Ozen, past the cobbled-together drift market. We float through glittering clouds of prismatic gaseous astra, the nebulous space energy that powers everything from pulsar weapons to void ships to magic itself. We find ourselves on the distant frontier of the known orbits, at the edges of the endless void known as the Nameless Reaches. A distant anomaly known as the Bleeding Eye swirls. And there, a speck in the darkness, we see a gleam of golden astra, as a small, insignificant cluster of rusted steel and misplaced bravado makes its way across the void. This is the Nomad, and our story begins with the 5 souls within its rattling bulkheads. Kurash, you do not sleep as your companions do. You never have. Instead, you meditate. And as you sort of come to from this most recent meditation, you are left with a series of vivid images in your mind. You can't make sense of them, not yet, though you've tried. You think they might be memories, images of the time before, images of the old Dominion. You stand now in the Nomad. What are you doing as the low lights of this ship sort of fall across your form?
In turbulent space, Kurash keeps his footing, staring directly forward at the ship's specter. What does he see? Is it on? What does it look like?
The ship itself is humming low as it drifts through space on autopilot. You know, the rest of your companions are either sleeping or tending to their own business in their cabins, which are little more than closets, sort of lined up along the length of the main walkway that bisects this uh, mostly small freighter. As you look around, the sconce in front of you, this small circular module, flickers to life, and a blue flickering flame-like sort of entity springs to life in front of you. A vaguely humanoid face coalesces within the flame, appearing as a young boy. The voice,
Good.
though, that... Oh, go ahead.
You go ahead.
The voice that emanates from the sconce is one that doesn't really match the visage. This is Sigma, the ship's onboard specter, and you're probably still not quite used to his presence. He flickers to life and says, "Kurash, do you require anything?"
Kurash's voice is distorted and it oscillates on a low frequency. He asks, "What is the status of the ship?"
The Nomad is currently operating at peak efficiency. We are on course to Daggerad. We should arrive there in 3 Bastion days.
Hearing the Spectre's voice is always grounding for Kurash, who at many times doesn't even know where he is when he awakens. But he doesn't quite hear that last part. Where?
Our destination is the moon of Daggerad.
Daggerad, he repeats twice. Then he turns around and he's going to walk through the ship down the long ways, just checking on things as he goes, looking for other crew members through as passages or doors kind of open up and allowing him through. He walks in an inhuman fashion. His posture is a little too perfect. His stride is a little too perfect, equal left, equal right, and so on and so forth. And he walks like machinery. Who does he find first?
That's a good question. Who would be up and about working on stuff?
I think Randall would be How familiar would we be with the Nomad at this point, Matt?
I think you've probably been on the Nomad at least a couple months at this point. It's becoming home. You're still finding out things about it, little intricacies, little complexities, quirks about it. The thing about void ships in the known orbits is that they're typically centuries, if not millennia old, and you often are one in a long line of crew members aboard this ship. And so you're just now sort of starting to get a feel for it. It's like that used car where you figure out that you need to turn a little bit harder if you're going left than if you're going right.
Sure. And so I think that Randall is awake. He has rigged up on the floor in his little corner. Now, would we be, when you say up and about, you mean walking throughout, or are you walking down these corridors kind of peeking into rooms, Barker?
I walk through a passageway and there you are, like in some sort of
perfect
cabin or area.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I'm in my room and the door's open and I have it rigged up. So essentially there's a treadmill, a very small, but I'm a mechanist. So I have built this sort of exercise machine. And so I am just incessantly running, and you can see that that my right arm in the fading sort of astra light or whatever is kind of lighting this cabin, that my right arm looks a little twisted, as though it were melted with acid and then reformed again in a bent sort of way. And I sort of just am running on this treadmill.
He stares at you for a moment and he gazes almost into the arm. And then he looks at his own arm and looks back to yours. And after a long pause, we'll continue walking down the passageway. But yeah, he leaves.
Briar, what are you up to in this? Well, it's not really dawn. There's no real dawn out in space, but in terms of the hours on the ship, you're just now sort of waking up.
Yeah, it sounded like Karash would sort of have been taking care of whatever piloting needed be. Of course, we're sort of on course, but just keeping track of the instruments and whatnot. So I imagine that at this point, Briar would have been asleep. He would have been sort of taking his ship to sleep, probably usually piloting. So, like you said, Karash is more meditating. So I could see Briar waking up about this time and, walking through, walking potentially past, also seeing Randall and passing Karash and probably giving him a look, sort of a friendly style of like ribbing look, because Briar is upset that they have to take shifts, even though Karash doesn't need to sleep technically, and he should just be piloting the ship all the time. But I guess he gets his leisure time too. So I would probably, Briar would be going to the sort of bridge and sitting down in some sort of pilot area, checking some stuff, flipping some switches, making sure there's nobody following us, maybe no like transmissions going out, no beacons flashing or anything, and puts his feet up, hands behind his head, and just watches the space fly by.
Kai, what are you doing as you wake? What is your morning routine in your tiny closet-sized cabin?
Kai is floating cross-legged, and her hands are in these strange positions. Her fingers are arrayed in these like arcane symbols. Her eyes are closed, but she can see further now as she goes through these enumerations, these like ancient exercises. She rises from the first into the second and the third and the fourth, bringing this like calm to her. And as she reaches the fourth enumeration, she kills her ego and becomes one with the astra of the ship, and she can feel this perfect calm. And then she brings herself back down through these enumerations, rebuilds her personality step by step until finally she opens her eyes, but there are no eyes there. And she doesn't see the sharp details that a normal person would see, just auras, and she can see the gunmetal aura of Kurash as he passes.
And he would pass and stop in front of your room, Kai. And when he sees you, you see his tall, broad-shouldered figure become diminished in some small way. And he nods and as he sees you, and he knows of his failure, and he says, "I'm sorry. I like to sleep near the scones." And he bows his head and looks at the floor. And when he calls it sleep, but you know what it is. It's his meditation or his standby, his way to fulfill his memories and gather them up.
Yeah, Kai would move herself down onto the ground and then stand. It's fine. Acceptable. Go.
The words, fine, acceptable, ring through his mind. Pauses. He hears you say go, and he turns and moves back down the passage from whence he came, almost like rewinding time. He sees on his way back up through the ship. Who next?
The last person you would encounter would be Ansel.
Yeah, Ansel has kind of roused himself from the sleep. It'd be typical that he would be the last one awake. A little bit of a layabout on the ship sometimes, a little bit too used to things going his way. But the door to his room would kind of slide open, and he would kind of step out and see Kurash. And Kurash would see Ansel doing this kind of nervous habit, I guess is the closest thing that he's almost constantly doing. He has a piece of glint. One side is marked so he can tell which way it flips. And he flips it with his finger like he's flipping a coin. And just as it's about to land on the tail side, there's like a tiny, almost imperceptible flash of yellow energy that flips it around. As he uses this astra to make sure that the coin always lands on heads, an old gambling trick that he used to trick people with back on his planet to make some extra cash.
Some trick.
Got to do something to make it by on things that we do.
And Kurash would motion his head towards the wall, which is kind of vibrating because of the treadmill on the other side that's just going at full speed. And we hear it probably pick up faster and faster.
The sconce on the bridge, most likely closest to you, Briar, flickers to life, and Sigma's face appears. The face kind of does this disconcerting thing where it looks around, almost like it is looking for who to speak to as it manifests within the sconce. And its eyes, or where its eyes would have been if its face was fully featured and detailed, fall on you, Briar, as it says, Briar, I'm detecting an astra signature synonymous with voidship engines. Roughly 1,000 leagues from our current position.
Of course, it's on my shift. And this would be very uncommon where we are, right? There would be no sort of passing traffic. This would be like cause for concern.
Yeah, you guys are out far enough where it's if there's another ship, it's probably a ship that's out here to cause trouble.
And so, I'd reach over to sort of whatever ship-wide whisper link we have going on, and flip it and let the crew know. Looks like we got a void ship, 1,000 leagues off. Sigma's saying, probably here to cause trouble. I guess if we can if we know they're there, they probably know we're there.
To some extent, you also know that Sigma is very aware. The sensors of your ship are sort of directly tied to the abilities of your Spectre. And because Sigma is constantly reaching out and sort of keeping an eye out, you know that you will usually notice other void ships before they notice you, which is one of the many reasons why the Nomad is a ship that is routinely used for less than savory work.
So Briar would ask Sigma, any chance of avoiding them out here?
We could easily avoid them, but there is something strange about their Astra signature. The engines are flickering. The ship is damaged, listless.
Oh, so we can definitely avoid him. And he would sort of again, switch on the whisper link and convey this information. And he would mention, maybe we should meet up here and decide if this is something we want to investigate further, talking to the rest of the crew.
And Pierce is walking up, and he's fastening the button of his sleeve, having finished what little exercise. And he heard you, and as he approaches, what do you think? Is it worth trying to hide this early?
Well, Sigma says it's listless, so I'm thinking there's no hiding necessary. We could just fly on by if we wanted, but, well, hell, they could be carrying anything.
Well, here's the thing. The moon that I'm from, that's the best way to lure unsuspecting people. Play dead. That's
But
all
we are
I'm
not
saying.
unsuspecting. Kai enters the room also. We're not unsuspecting. We are ready. There could be a great wealth there.
Maybe back on your home planet, you avoid opportunities, but where I come from, can't afford to give one up. I'm with Kai. There's a chance here to take something. Seems easy enough. Please try it.
Matt, I skimmed that that ship stat block, but do we have something awesome? Where are we, like a gunship? Can I grappling hook these people with my ship? Can we board them? Like, is it going to be easy if we were able to kind of board these people, or whatever it might be?
Yeah, you know that you can definitely easily board a ship, especially if it's listless. That's pretty much the easiest way. You just sort of match speed, hook on, and sort of jump across, for lack of a better phrase.
Awesome. Okay, so basically, Briar would suggest carefully, potentially, approaching this ship and potentially hailing them when we got close enough. If no one had any objections, otherwise we could absolutely avoid it. But if they are actually listless, that will be no problem. It'll be super easy to just avoid them entirely. But a ship's a ship's a ship.
Yeah. And I think Randall would give his normal cursory objections of, why don't we just stay out of trouble? Why don't we just avoid this? Why are you guys always looking for the next fight?
Is there a way, Matt, for Kai to use her Astra to interface with Sigma and try and do a more intense scan? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually glad you asked, because I was going to suggest that. So what we can do is you can take up the astrogator role. So you basically sit next to Briar, become the ship's astrogator, and you can interface with the Spectre and give me a sensor check, which would you'd be able to roll the ship's sensors ability and add your proficiency bonus since you are proficient with void ships. So the Nomad sensors are a +1.
Okay, awesome. Okay. And my proficiency is +2 because I'm level 1, so it's going to be 15 all up.
15. So what does it look like when you sit down in the astrogator seat? Like what sort of process do you go through to do this thing?
It's fairly involved for the way that Kai does it. I imagine there's different ways for the different crew members to do this, but because of Kai's unique talents, she would like sit and then she would like close her eyes and enter into the first enumeration, which is a sort of calmness and also an ability to like read Astra. And when she does that, she would like see, I guess, Sigma and her aura or its aura. And there would be a sort of an avatar of Kai in that space, this weird non-space. And they would like join together, and then using Sigma's eyes, Kai would be able to see into space.
And your gaze carries over the 1,000 leagues of distance between the Nomad and this other ship. And as you see it, the rest of the crew sees it as well, as the glancer set into the main console of this ship emits gaseous astra, and you see a 3-dimensional image begin to coalesce in this sort of prismatic gas. And it appears as a small ship, likely a skiff, kind of drifting in space. And even in the like less than detailed shape that is being coalesced within the glancer, you can see holes punched through it. You can see wreckage off of it. You can see air escaping out of these holes, and you see the engines going sort of sputtering, and it's sort of in this constant spin through space.
So Kai sees herself like basically flying in space, and she's like moving around the ship as if she's there and like getting a look at the various angles before finally like she sees herself separate from Sigma and then back into the chair.
And you would actually, because you're a noble of the Seps, you would probably be able to recognize this ship pretty easily as well. It's a distinct looking ship constructed of very unique materials. You would recognize it as a stealth ship of Verloren, a skiff from the Sept Inoa, which was displaced by the arrival of the Harbinger. Stealth ships are very rare and very valuable.
Briar would point out that if this is bait, it's some of the most expensive bait I've ever seen. Pointing out the fact that it would be unlikely that somebody would use an entire ship just to, potentially catch someone else unawares by punching holes through something that, is impossible to be found or created again.
And all the way out here, it does seem unlikely that it's a trap. Then again, Anua is known for its strange ways.
I think
No reward without the risk, though. If it's valuable, then even if it is a trap, as long as it doesn't kill us, we can still get out making a lot of money off of it.
I don't mind flying through space with a bunch of less than savory individuals, but I'll admit when I'm wrong. And I would love to get my hands on some of that tech.
Let's say we get a little closer and see with our own eyes. And again, if no one has objections, I would certainly get a bit closer. Close enough until we can kind of see something. But again, maybe not close enough that if it was all a ruse that they could just shoot us down with gunships.
So you're gonna
I'll man a gun just in
approach
case.
at your distance.
Yeah, sort of slow approach, kind of get ready, see what we should do.
Cool. And then Ansel, you said you're going to sit in a gun.
Just in case, yep.
Yep, good call. There are 2 pulsar cannons on this ship, both of which can be manned by one of the crew members. So there's another one open if someone else wants to take the other one.
Kurash straps in or near somewhere near Kai, and his eyes are always on Kai as he wonders someday if she will teach him.
Very cool. What are you doing, Randall? Are you wanting to take the other gun?
No, I think that Randall would be, you know, he's not anti-violence. He's just out of his element. You know what I mean? This is, you know, ever since the job, I think he's kind of been wrapped up in this group. The only family that he has, but still feeling like the outcast of the family, the one that doesn't quite fit in. And so it's rough. So yeah, I still find that even after a month on this ship, I don't know what to do with myself. And then it starts to sort of come out in this nervous energy, similar to what was on the treadmill, just this trying to do something, trying to do anything and feeling sort of useless. I would probably look to tinker with something on the ship, even if it was a dial or a knob or something, or the glancer, to try to help in some way, feeling like I can't.
Totally. Ugh, the job, man. So, Briar, you're going to approach the stealth ship, but keep your distance.
Yeah, just get a little closer and kind of confirm visually. Briar, even sort of being a mechanist, might even be someone that doesn't trust all the craziness of the Spectre and the Astra and the Glancers and all this, and he'd want to be able to see it. And then potentially decide whether or not to approach, and then, like you said, suit up and potentially hop in there and see what we can get.
Cool. So you're able to get within about 60 leagues of it in order to make sort of visual confirmation on the ship. That's about the distance that you can see. So you close within 60 leagues of this thing. It takes, you know, several minutes to get to that point. And you do see it, and it's difficult to see. The way that the ship is designed, the black plating around it, and just sort of it doesn't look like a ship. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't look like it's intended to fly through space. It almost looks like a piece of debris. And you know, as soon as you see it, like, that is unmistakably a stealth ship from Sept Inua. And it is, you just see this like glittering trail of Astra behind it, like this vapor, as it's just venting all of the energy inside of it as it's just kind of spinning through space.
There is one question. That if this is a stealth ship and very valuable, what did this to it?
"60 leagues away is a bad time to be asking that. I guess we'll find out." And so what would it take to, because if this thing's sort of in a roll, it's obviously going to be a little bit more difficult to stabilize or to be able to get on it. What would it take to get in and do that? And while, you know, figuring that out, though Sigma definitely knows, Briar would remind Sigma to let us know immediately if any other Astra signatures show up.
Definitely. I want to tell the chat that I'm not coaching these guys, but we're like moving into like all the playtest stuff I wanted to try with the ship here. So, so Briar, what you're going to do is a maneuver check with the Nomad. So the Nomad's maneuverability is +2. So you're going to roll that and add your proficiency bonus.
Awesome. Okay. So that's a natural 20. So that puts me at a total of 24.
Oh my God. So
he's a really good pilot.
Go ahead and describe what it looks like as you essentially like match speed and spin with this ship to basically be completely locked in place with it.
So we would begin getting closer to the ship, and it would look to an untrained eye like either I was going to hit it or that I was coming in at an angle that an angle that like really just didn't make sense, and then suddenly potentially pulling on a yoke or whatever the interface is like, the ship moves in a way that I think, especially for people that don't usually move in zero gravity, would seem weird. So we have our artificial gravity, but from the outside, the ship would begin moving in just a very awkward way. And like you said, kind of matching almost this rotation and this roll. And then after doing so, holding this yoke, you'd maybe flip a switch or two, and it would kind of lock that in, and we would continue, and he would be like trying to sort of match that and continuing to watch and keep track of it.
Perfect. So you're able to do that, no problem. And Sigma tells you that you're basically locked in with the speed and rotation of this ship. And he says, I will keep a weather eye open for any other Astra signatures, but there's nothing within my sensor range at this time.
Would Sigma be able to hold us steady here, or would this be something that okay, so
yeah, like Sigma can sort of do anything that you need him to. The difference being that if he were to have to make a roll, it would just be flat whatever the ship has. It wouldn't have any proficiency bonus added to it.
Oh, okay, yeah, good point. So with that, Briar would sort of suggest we get ready. I imagine there's going to be some hard vacuum with the holes in the ships and everything. Do we have suits for that? Is there what's the protocol there?
So I was actually going to ask you guys what you imagine boarding a ship looks like in Harbinger. You guys all have breathers as part of your kit, but you obviously can't just put on a breather and step out into space without some repercussions. So I'm curious as to do you guys imagine like a physical hard lock thing that kind of connects to the other ship? Do you imagine like an Astra field that gets projected? Void ships are covered in void barriers that are projected by green Astra. It could be that the barrier is extended to the other ship so that you're able to either open the door or cut a hole into it or whatever. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I could see there being both, but I really, especially with something where the hull has been punctured, the barriers sort of I feel like that was in a movie where there was a thing they had to do that with, where they come close enough and the barriers kind of encompass each other and they're able to open up. And but I absolutely could see there being a hard lock style thing as well.
Yeah, and just from a design standpoint, I love the interactions that could take place in a field rather than very improvisational interactions, like purposefully leaving the lock and doing that kind of thing. So I like the void barriers being the sort of life preserver, but if you're purposefully doing it and you have someone adept, the Astra field adds on to that. So the void barrier is just, you don't fly away, excuse me, into space, but maybe if someone can control it with an Astra field, you can have gravity, as kind of like what Barker was saying in the chat. So maybe it's both degrees. The void field just keeps you kind of floating near each other. But if you have Astra, you can lock it in and actually board, maybe something like that.
So is it something then that myself and Ansel would have to do? To channel the Astra from our ship to encompass their ship? Some sort of check in tandem to try and like move our Astra to theirs?
Yeah, I think let's go ahead and do that. So what we can do is maybe do like a flat charisma check with advantage if one of you is helping the other to sort of just manipulate the Astra energy and extend basically a boarding ramp over to the other ship.
Go for it, Ansel.
Alrighty. Alrighty, with advantage, that is going to be 18 all up.
Perfect. So you can go ahead and describe what that looks like. I imagine you're standing at the airlock of the Nomad in order to do this.
Yeah, I imagine that at this point, Kai and Ansel have had enough interactions that she would know that, he has these powers, but he doesn't necessarily know exactly how to use them. So I imagine the helping is her kind of coaching, kind of giving just that little bit of education knowledge of okay, now you want to use this here, move this like this. But as he does so, he kind of just like reach out with his hands, try to put himself into that focus mindset that Kai always goes into, but he can't do it nearly as effectively or calmly as she can. It's much more raw. As he would do so, the kind of Astra field around their ship would just kind of begin to extend out, this kind of green field that kind of starts almost like a gas cloud. But as it gets closer and closer to connecting with the actual ship, it begins to kind of solidify into almost like a spectral solid surface, this kind of like shimmering light floor that seems to connect from our airlock to the others.
Very cool. Yeah, so you create this link between the two ships, and you know that there will probably be no oxygen and no gravity in the ship based on the amount of Astra that's venting out of it, and so you'll need to go with breathers on into the ship.
And I also imagine that the airlock on their end will be closed, but that we will be boarding through one of these large holes. Would these be holes we could fit through?
The holes themselves they look like pulsar round breaches. So they're, about this big around, not big enough for you to squeeze through. You will have to cut through the airlock.
Okay. All right. Then so in that case, with a breather and in his voidborn element of the no gravity, and his arc tool, Briar would sort of push across to wherever this airlock is and potentially try to start getting in with his arc tool, whether, like you said, cutting or potentially trying to mess with some sort of panel to open it up. Maybe, in fact, interfacing with the, trying to get some sort of response from the Sigma, from the, what's it called?
The Spectre.
The Spectre. Like the Sigma, the sconce. I don't know what it's called.
The spectral robot face.
The robot face guy. If you do try and, because you mentioned that you might want to try and hail the ship. If you had tried hailing it, there would have been absolutely no response from the ship. It would have been dead silent. And if you try and interact with the Spectre, there is no response either. And so you know that you're going to have to either cut your way through the door or interface with the lock to get it open with your arc tool.
And we would have sort of contact with Sigma at this point, right? Like whisper link with each other, and
you can still contact Sigma, whatever the range on your whisper links is, which I think is like a mile. I think you can still contact him at that range. I have to check on that actually. I wrote this game.
Kai is going to go. Kai's going to go over to Kurash, and as he kind of stands and looks at her, she's going to close her eyes, which are empty, but she does it anyway. It's like an affectation of when she had eyes still. And she will make a strange shape with her fingers, and she will reach out and put her hand on Kurash's chest. And she's going to put spectral armor on him. It's a sort of protection, but also it will. It's like an emergency backup for if the Astra around the ship suddenly vanishes. You'll get a couple more seconds from the spectral armor that's also Astra around you. In my mind,
that's perfect. I might actually add that to the spectral armor, as it being like you can don't have to worry about being in the vacuum for
retaining atmosphere. Yeah,
it would make it super handy, very utilitarian.
That's very, very handy.
And I think Randall would take this opportunity to feel useful, especially even though it's in the void of space, but seeing you interfacing and tinkering, and I won't take no for an answer as far as the Spectre not working. And so I walk up and I sort of flip open this wrist glancer and I start doing a test basically. And I just start, sort of typing things, and I'm like, and I start sort of repeating some words, and perhaps maybe I even ask the glancer questions to ask the Spectre, and I'm like, have you ever been in an institution? Cells. What's it like to hold the hand someone you love? Interlinked. Just trying to get this thing to wake up, and yet there's still no response. And so I look down at Briar and sort of pull this arc tool out. All right. What are we gonna do? Pop the lock or pop the lock?
And Briar would sort of motion to. I imagine he's gone across already. And he would motion to the sort of interface that he would try and open the door without cutting it first. I imagine cutting will be a lot more brute force and a little more difficult. And so, using my arc tool, I would like to potentially open this door. I don't know, shove it in there.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Every airlock is. I like to think of void ships as each one is like its own little floating dungeon. And so every airlock has like a very complex sort of lock on it that has to be picked unless you have the appropriate key. So what I'll need from you if you're trying to pop this lock is basically a dex check with your arc tool proficiency.
And can I assist him with this?
You absolutely can. Yeah. So you can make that check with advantage, James.
Sweet.
And I would love to see.
Good thing.
Okay, I was gonna say, well, let's see.
So I imagine
Yeah.
like Randall sort of standing back with his glancer and sort of like analyzing this lock and like sort of walking you through as you're using your arc tool to pop it.
I've got the PDF pulled up of
Yeah.
the manual. I'm like,
if you have the 97
yeah.
special
Yeah, he's got the
edition
Hayes
on
repair
page
manual.
4. Okay, yep.
And you always see the version that you're like, wow, I wish I got this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, wow. You'll have to remove the engine mounts to open the door. That would be helpful. So 17 total with advantage because the first time it was a 2. So
Yeah. So
I almost didn't do
what
it.
you needed. So you you interface with this lock using your arc tool, and after 30 seconds, 45 seconds, the lock spins and these different shapes sort of lock in place. There's a brief sort of flash of Astra, and the door opens, and whatever air was left inside the ship kind of breezes out towards you. The light inside this ship flickers as you look within.
Sorry, I'll just say, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'll just say that Kai is staying on the ship. She has a bad feeling about this, and she's going to stay like plugged into the into Sigma and like into the sensors, basically as an early alert system for when Septinua inevitably comes and claims their very expensive ship. So she's going to stay there and do that, but send Kurash as her proxy.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Is everyone else going aboard the stealth ship?
Yeah, so I would just sort of, the doors would open. I imagine corridors to either side. I just made that up, of course. Could be something different. But the idea being I would sort of peer in first. I have dark vision as I am a voidborn, and this is kind of my element, so to speak. I would peer in and see if anything immediately frightens or gives me any cause for concern.
The thing that you would probably notice, like, immediately is the amount of spent pulsar casings floating on the air. Personal pulsars, they're like, for a handgun. There are dozens floating, and actually as the air sort of rushed out, a few of these pulsar cartridges sort of like plinked against your head as they came flying out.
I feel like this is about the time that I would look at Kurash, especially with his brand new shiny shield shimmering around him and probably holding a glaive. I like to think he's sort of the door kicker, the first in the door kind of thing. And I would look at him and, for that cue of right after you.
You turn around and you see Kodash walking towards you and walking towards the other ship, standing tall, some sort of smile on his face. He always sees the protection of Kai and receiving of this protection as a blessing. No one else bestowing any sort of magic or ability on him exists in his memory banks. And he is a long life, as far as he can tell, hidden deep within subconscious zeros and ones. He walks towards you, Briar, and pulls out this large, almost like perfectly chrome rod that's about 2 meters maybe long. And approaching the door, he holds it up and ignites it, and this red Astra just forms this, engulfs the end of this rod in this large glaive-like blade shape. And he looks at you and nods, ready to go. He is the door kicker, though. This door seems quite open in front of him. Right? He's just it's dark on the inside. He'll just walk through.
So just to be clear, I imagined we were floating at this point because there's no gravity. There's no gravity, right? So he's kind of doing like the pull kind of thing. But I just wanted to make sure because I'm like, I have special stuff for low grav, so I was really excited about it.
It is low grav and low oxygen. We're using location conditions, so all of those things apply.
I mean, I would seeing all of this and Karash going through the door with this glaive, take my own scattergun out and have it ready.
And just, I was just gonna say, just for clarity, there is no way that Randall's going in there. So, yeah, I'm staying back, whatever that looks like. Probably still within the floating between the two, but closer to the Nomad. Now that the door is open, I just kind of drifted back. I kicked off the wall of the pool, and I'm in the shallow end.
Totally. And what I'll allow you and Kai to do, since you're electing to stay behind, is you can spend that time sort of analyzing the damage on this stealth ship and try and figure out what happened. So you'll be able to make some investigation rolls, some tech checks, something like that, to be able to figure out what exactly happened. So other than I'm gonna try to keep using character names so I bore them into my head. Other than Randall and Kai staying behind, is everyone else going inside the stealth ship?
Yes.
Cool. So, Kudarash, you step inside, and just like James said, you see a corridor to your right, corridor to your left. This ship is very different than the Nomad. The Nomad is steel girders and rusty bulkheads and leaking pipes. This ship it looks like the bulkheads are sort of plated in wood, and not wood that's been lumbered, but wood that has been shaped over it. It's almost like the walls of this almost look like have you ever seen a burl, like a bowl made out of a burl from a tree, where they cut the burl off and hollow it out and polish it up and stuff? That's kind of what the walls of this look like. They're very
it's like natural wood trim, kind of.
Yeah, it's but it's
like the whole wall.
It's kind of breathtaking. If there weren't so many holes through these walls, it's just been shot to shit. And there is you immediately notice blood splatters on the walls as well. There is a corridor to your right, which leads to the back section of the ship, which I should know because the Provokers have an airship too, and I'm trying to learn the sides of the ship, but I don't remember. I think it's aft.
Aft is the back. Yep.
Aft is the back. The corridor to your right leads to the aft of the ship, whereas the corridor to your left, you can see immediately opens into the bridge. So you can either go to the right, to the aft of the ship, which it looks like there's other rooms back there, and then the bridge is immediately to your left.
Kurash disengages the energy weapon feature on his glaive, just revealing the basic pull and simple blade on the end right now. He looks at the blood splatter, motions towards it while turning towards the bridge of the ship, looking around for anything unusual outside the obvious disrepair of this thing.
So you're going towards the bridge? You
Yes.
turn left, and you're sort of keeping an eye out. You can give me a perception check if you'd like, since you're sort of looking around. And then what's the marching order behind Kudarash?
I would be Briar would be right behind Kurash, following him. Deciding, basically following him wherever he chose. He goes to the bridge. He'd be right behind, scattergun ready.
Cool.
Yep, Ansel would follow up at the back, kind of keeping an eye behind them everywhere they went, constantly kind of turning back to look down the hallways that they're not going down, just to make sure that nothing sneaks up on them from behind as far as he can be aware.
Perfect. Okay, 16 perception. So the thing that you would probably notice first, Kurash, is you would see that the specter sconce is kind of like flickering on and off on the console of this ship. It's sort of going. It almost looks like a match that's going out in the wind. Like it keeps fluttering and like kind of coming back and then fluttering, coming back a little bit, fluttering. Like it looks like a fire that's going out.
He feels the pulsing of his armor that he can't really see over his chest, standing like magnetic static. He walks over to the sconce and wonders what took the life out of this craft. And he goes to examine the sconce once he can.
So you head towards this sconce, and again, it's just flickering. Like some sort of repairs are going to need to be made before this thing can function at all. You see, as the fire is sort of coming up, you see just the briefest flash of a face within it. The specter is still in there somewhere, but faltering.
I would relay this back. Specifically, Briar would get a ping and maybe even, I don't know, see or hear of this sconce that's in need of repairs.
Yeah, and so would it be possible to, this is just sci-fi mumbo jumbo, divert more power to the sconce to see if we could get something out of her, or maybe even access some sort of log that is like, these things happen, maybe the alarms that went off, the things that tripped, even when maybe when the hull was breached, something like that?
Yeah, definitely. So go ahead and give me another check with your arc tools as you interface with the main glancer on this ship.
So that's a total of 16.
So you interface with the console, and you're able to divert some of the Astra that's sort of being pumped into the engines to try and keep them going. You move it into the Spectre, and the fire sort of flickers to life weakly, but a much more apparent than it was before. The face within appears, and you hear scattered words sort of coming out of it. Attacked. We're being attacked. Hull is breached. Void barriers down. We are being boarded. We are being boarded. We are being boarded. And then the fire sort of flickers out.
And Briar would whisper link to the crew. Now, nothing we didn't know already. And then probably tell Kurash, maybe we ought to check out the back.
Kurash tries to hide the sad look on his face as he acknowledges that.
And he would call out to Kai and Randall. You guys getting anything?
With that sensor check, Kai, you have detected a very strong Astra presence in the aft of the ship near the engine room. And it's a sort of constant Astra source. It's not flickering like the engines are.
I'll say that then. There's a powerful resonance coming from the aft of the ship. Maybe something valuable. Maybe.
I'll try to check it out and see if I can feel anything up close.
Cool. So Ansel, you're moving towards the back of the ship.
Yep.
And it should be noted that you guys are not walking. None of you can afford grav boots, so you're pulling yourself along in the low gravity of this ship. Ansel, you move towards the back of the ship. You pass by several cabins which are empty. You push through more empty, spent casings from pulsars. You also kind of brush past what looks like a short blade that's sort of floating, and it's stained with blood. You push past it, and as you round a corner towards the aft of the ship, you see the engine room in front of you. The engine's just completely inoperable. The Astra within is sort of flickering and venting out in its gaseous form. But you see off to your left, in the aft of the ship, another room, a larger room, and there is a vivid emerald green glow coming from this room. And if you get any closer, you see that there is a field of green Astra, and there is a man floating inside of it.
Oh, kind of like just sees that he's shocked, and he would kind of flip on the whisper link. There's a person back here, encased in Astra, like some sort of, I don't know.
I'm on the way, Kai says, and like we'll get up out of the chair and begin immediately heading into the ship. There's like a real sense of like eagerness and a hunger.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a Kai thing. I'm like, all right, I've got the door. He's gonna do that. I'm like, all right, Kai, you're up. Matt, would we be able to tell? You said it's a man, but based on the way it looks, would we be able to tell Forgeborn, Moonborn, Voidborn?
It is a Moonborn man, very old. He is very gaunt. He's wearing these sort of tattered robes of green and brown. And there's appears to be like a staff or a walking stick kind of floating with him, kind of going end over end, bouncing off of various corners in the room.
And so Briar would wait for Kai to arrive and potentially look in some of the other cabins and just peek in, making sure there's nobody hiding or anything, waiting for Kai to come and, I don't know, interface with this thing.
Kai has a relatively easy time getting through the ship. She was Voidborn also, and she's familiar with how you need to navigate. Plus, she has her unique talents, which allows her to occasionally push herself when there is no force. So she makes it there quickly.
A person? What do you mean? Like a body? Is there a body in there, or like what do you mean? What do you say? A person? Ansel, what do you mean?
Like an actual person. Like I don't know if he's alive, but he doesn't look dead. He's not moving. He's sitting in this Astra field. I don't know. This kind of thing isn't my forte.
Okay, well, I'm gonna stay out here. You let me know. Just a person.
Kai is like frustrated at all the chatter. She's like trying to concentrate and she's looking at this thing. So she's just going to like turn off her whisper link so that she can concentrate. And is going to like, even though she's floating in 0G, like assume that position again of like cross-legged, her like hands in this particular shape. And she's going to try and focus and see what's going on.
Turning off your whisper link is a tiny Harbinger version of splitting the party.
That's true.
It is, because there's no sound is going to carry. There'd be no way, literally, for us to get in contact.
He's turned off his targeting computer.
Is this a sound in space sort of setting? It depends, James.
For dramatic effect only.
Yeah. If you yell really loud, it'll carry for sure.
Yep, that's it. And if you sound like a TIE fighter.
This is totally a divergent thing, but one of my favorite just little touches is in the Expanse. Whenever their comms don't work, they shove their space helmets together and yell through their helmets at each other because it can cross through the oxygen in the helmets.
Yeah.
So good.
So cool.
There's this really cool scene where these Martian space marines are like in their power armor and their comms go out and they put their helmets together and she's like, set up a firing line. And it's just like, oh my God, it's so rad. Anyway,
That's such tasty hard sci-fi.
Oh, it's so good. Okay, so Kai, go ahead and give me an Astra check. While you're doing that, Randall, you have spent the last few minutes observing the damage on this ship. And with your tech check of 16, you are able to sort of figure out exactly what happened. This ship was attacked with the intent of being boarded. The engines were targeted first, and based on where the shots are landing and this sort of like line of fire, it looks like a ship came up behind this one as it was traveling, disabled its engines within seconds, and then came up alongside it and boarded. The strange thing for you, though, is that you're not sure if they were boarded, how they got in. The airlock was sealed when you guys got there, and there were seemingly no holes big enough for anything to fit through. So if they were boarded, you're not sure how.
At the information, I would immediately probably address Briar, you know, my fellow IT buddy. And I would relay that information, especially noting the fire patterns, how the engines were disabled. And then I would say, yeah, it looks like it was I don't know, it must have been like a Thorchestra shuffle, something where they just came by and they blew them out of the water engines first, but we're the first ones in here. That door, that was locked, that was sealed. Briar, what could get in a sealed ship?
Would Briar have any idea of something possibly, you know, even reasonable?
You haven't the slightest clue. You have heard stories and rumors of Mancers who are capable of using Astra to basically get themselves inside of void ships, but it's difficult to do because of the void barriers. So whatever happened here would have had to have been carried out with like precision, like take out the engines, take out the void barriers, get inside, get out.
And Briar would let Pierce know that and say, "There's nothing I can think of, but I'm sure when Kai gets finished, we either won't be around or we'll know a bit more."
And Kai, you're focusing. Your Whisperlink is off. You're missing out on this conversation, but you're focused on this Astra, and you can immediately tell that this Astra was conjured by this man who's floating inside of it. He's unconscious, but it's some sort of protective field that he has put around himself to protect himself from the vacuum or whatever was inside this ship attacking the people. So he is unconscious now, but you're not sure how long this field has been up, but it definitely isn't going to last forever.
So Kai has like moved up through her techniques, her enumerations, and she is no longer aware of her body. And so she's just trying to read this man and see if it's possible to like communicate with his dreaming consciousness.
Interesting. Let's just do a flat charisma check to see if you can maybe access his person. No, this is perfect. It's gonna be everything you do, Lloyd, is just gonna turn into a spell. You know that, right?
So I shit you not, that is another spotlessly clean natural 20.
Good Lord. Ain't no dirty 20s on this crew.
Yeah. So that's a 24, I guess, if it's an Astra.
Yeah, so you reach out, you're still in this meditative place. You reach out and you're able to sense not thoughts but emotions, feelings of this man. You sense incredible fear, but the main thing that you sense is this like crushing loss. This just intense melancholy that you have maybe never quite experienced. It is the feeling of losing something that is priceless to you. It feels to you like if you were to lose your ability to sense Astra, that's how it makes you feel. Like you'll never be the same person again. Those are the emotions that are running through this man's mind.
So we see the camera like pan around as she's floating, and it like sees her face, and there are like tears streaming down from her closed eyes. She like feels that devastating loss. And she's just going to like try and call out like return, return, come back.
As you do that with your spotless D20, you call out to him, and he's floating there completely unconscious. His eyes burst open as he wakes. He immediately panics as he realizes that there's no gravity, and he tries to catch on to something, anything. And you see the green field of Astra begin to sort of flicker.
So Kai has to like very quickly move her way back down into consciousness. She can like sense that he's back in the real plane, and she's like working quickly, like stumbling over the exercises to try and get back to reality. She can't even turn on her whisper link to communicate because she's still floating in the astral space. And so she's like working really, really quickly until finally she like, and then she'll like smack on her whisper link. He's awake. He's conscious.
I imagine that like Ansel obviously had no idea that any of that went down. He just sees this guy burst awake. So I imagine like his gun just like comes out that's pointed, like he sees this guy just start flailing. And he's just like looking around panicked until he sees Kai kind of come back in and Link. And he kind of just Jesus, I don't know what you did in there, but what's going on?
And would we notice this Astra kind of flickering and maybe realize what's happening here?
Yeah, definitely. Because I assume that you and Kurash have probably come back to see what's going on back there, and so you're all kind of crowded around as Kai is interfacing with this guy, and you see the man wake up, and you see the field of Astra begin to sort of fade and flicker out.
And immediately Briar would say, "We gotta get him back to the ship." Realizing, that maybe this Astra is what's keeping him here in this, no oxygen, no gravity environment, and he would sort of kick off to maybe just grab him, like, over the shoulder kind of grab, and then kick off the back wall and try to get him back to the ship. In fact, probably would do all that and then sort of hand him off to Kurash if he was waiting in the doorway, knowing that he could probably do so, more deftly and more quickly.
And he does so. He takes this haul and still zero gravity, correct?
Yep.
Just kind of plants his feet against a bulkhead and mechanically, but with precision, fires outward and shoots himself down a hallway in the zero grav situation back towards the ship with this person. And he says that word that he's heard so many times that he, for some reason, his mind can never wrap itself around. Person. He says it over and over, person, as he's looking at this figure.
And as this, as it is kind of called out, he's alive, he's here, he's awake. In that moment, without thinking, I think that Randall would grasp at his belt and unlatch this pyramid. He would flip it into the air, and it would hover there, the flattest, broadest part towards the sky. As this spheroid hums to life, he goes, "Patch him up." And as if to respond, the spheroid just sort of run, and floats toward whatever the figure is. And this is going to be mechanically support spheroid. And so, healing spheroid. And so the idea is that I'm going to try to mechanically make this spheroid fly and then heal the target creature within 10 feet of it. And then the spheroid can restore a number of hit points up to the maximum amount remaining in my pool. And so I don't know how many he needs or if I would be able to, but I would do the max amount.
Perfect. Yeah, so this all happens in a matter of seconds. And as Kurash sort of comes back into the Nomad, he passes through the airlock of the Nomad, and the field of gravity being generated by Sigma basically allows him to touch down, and the weight of this man sort of goes on him totally. Although he's a tiny, frail old man, he weighs almost nothing. And in that same instant, this pyramidal sort of spheroid, this little construct, comes floating around the corner and immediately begins this field of blue just sort of washes over this man, and the cut on his head begins to sort of be stitched up very quickly, almost like 3D printed, as this thing is just sort of
Yeah,
going over his
dude.
wounds.
Can we do flat laser like Astra? You know that
I'm
that
thinking
single
laser
flat
Floyd.
like
Yep, exactly. Yep. Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
dude, flat laser.
Yeah.
3D printing some HP.
And he is restored to health. You hear he takes in a breath, and it's this shuddering breath. As he was in vacuum for a few seconds, he takes a shuddering breath, and you can feel his frail body sort of straining and pushing against you, Kurash, as he's trying to escape your grasp.
Kurash will continue trying to restrain him, but he'll do so in a way that allows him to stand up. Or if he's pushing away, he'll just kind of use his momentum to push him upward instead, and just kind of maybe even flip him around and just hold him in one place if I can.
Yeah, you are easily able to restrain him. He's weak, and he's also small, and he's not putting up as much of a fight as he normally would.
Cool. I'll pile drive him.
Perfect. Yeah, you give him the people's elbow.
You mangle his frail old body.
I'm getting myself.
What was the max HP on that support drone there, Tim?
The people's elbow -1.
So while that was happening sort of in the ship, you mentioned this what sounded like a quarterstaff of some sort. I would have grabbed that and potentially looked around for anything else of value relatively quickly. Briar gets the impression from his past life that this is not the sort of place that they ought to stay, or that this is a thing that will last very much longer. So like I said, looked around for anything in particular, maybe of the old man's, maybe of something else, and then we'll begin making his way back to the ship.
Cool. Yeah, you find the staff, which it seems to be made of the same wood that is coating the bulkheads of this ship. You also find a crate filled with just basic dried preserved rations, as well as some water. And then go ahead and roll me a D20 if you would, please, James.
It's a 14.
14. Oh, dope. In a crate, you find a... Let's see. You find this small cylindrical metal sort of object that is wrapped with spiraling orichalcum wiring, which you know orichalcum to be astra conductive. It's a metal that can be used to basically conduct astra energy. It's used in void ships a lot. This is some sort of weapon module. You're not sure exactly what it does. It's not something that you've seen before, but you imagine that with some time and some effort, you'd be able to figure out exactly what it does.
Awesome. Yeah. And with that, like I said, I would go to
weapon mod.
right. I would go back to the ship and see what's going on with the old man, with the guy from Diablo's name. I can't remember.
Old man Jenkins. It is Deckard Cain for sure.
That's it. And he wakes up and his first words are Belial.
Diablo. Yeah. What are Ansel and Kai doing?
So Kai is like still floating there. She hasn't really moved. She's settled up, but she's still in that position, and she's going to she can't see really. She can see auras and like signatures and things, and so she would like look around for anything that might like be visible to her, anything with an Astra signature. But she's trying to get an impression of what happened here, like trying to read if what the violence was, like get a feel for that kind of thing.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Give me a investigation check, please.
I think I'm good at this. Nope. So that'll be
another natural 20.
It's gonna be an 8.
An 8. You don't find anything else noteworthy or of worth. It looks like whatever happened here happened very quickly and very violently. you do find it odd, and this doesn't require any sort of check, that there is a lot of damage and carnage and blood that happened on this ship, but there are seemingly no bodies. That definitely strikes you as odd.
For sure. So once she's like had a look around, so to speak, she would like look at Ansel. I'm going to return to the ship. You shouldn't be long.
Yeah, I'll be right behind you. And as Kai kind of goes on ahead, he would kind of just take one last look around quizzically before just kind of shaking his head, not even bothering to try to figure out what's happened. It's beyond something that he can fathom right now. And he would push his way back towards the ship. Now you mentioned that when he was on the way in, there was like a short blade that he saw kind of spiraling down. If it's okay, as he pushes back, he's just going to kind of reach a hand out. There's like a yellow tint that goes across the blade as the handle goes through the ship as if by itself towards his hand. He kind of grabs it. He goes to spin it and then realizes that there's no gravity and has to like catch it again, realizing that it'd just fly away before heading back towards the ship.
Awesome. So the old man, as he's taking breaths, he kind of slumps against the nearest bulkhead, sort of catching his breath, and the first words out of his mouth, "Water. Water, please."
Kurash doesn't loosen his grip one bit, but instead looks around for Kai or anyone else. I think actually he'll see Randall Pierce is probably nearest.
Yeah, and I would be clamoring for water. And I would imagine on an old rig like the Nomad, it's not too much of a problem to keep some open water around because everything's analog and everything is like wet all the time anyway, or spill proof. But I'd be looking just for anything, and I would probably have to go, Matt, where is water on the Nomad?
There is a small sort of mess where you guys keep the water and rations that you have to subsist on. But you also may have canteens, flasks, that sort of thing, sort of sitting around the ship.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And so I also have just this tiny little sort of water gun mod on my spheroid, and it shoots a single jet of water into his mouth. No. So I probably scramble to the mess and get the rationed water, which I would imagine we probably have just some things like to wash our hands and things like in maybe just like small pouches or something like these kind of clear. So I kind of I grab a handful of those. And so I sort of hand them to him almost sheepishly, but proudly. And it probably looks a little ridiculous. And so I fumble to sort of open one up, and he takes it. And how does he respond?
He grabs it from you and immediately starts sort of guzzling it. And at first he sort of coughs as the water enters his lungs. And then he drinks again, slower this time, and is able to sip the water. As he's done drinking, he says, my staff, I had a staff. And then it's at that point that he probably sees Briar coming around the corner with that staff. And he says, "Please, I have my staff. Will you give it to me?"
And Briar would get, within a couple steps. Karash is still holding him, and he would not immediately give him the staff. Is it a staff like? Is it just a wooden staff, or does it look like old tech, or
it's like just made out of this gnarled wood that has been polished. You can tell that it's well worn. It's been well used. It has a bit of a kind of a crook at the top of it, so you can kind of hold it easily. And it's about half the height of this guy. It looks like it's just his sort of walking.
Okay, so it's not even like staff. It's like a cane.
Yeah, it's more like a cane. Yeah.
I check to make sure it's not secretly a sword, and then I give it to him.
Okay, it is secretly a rocket launcher though, so he aims
Oh.
that. No, I'm just kidding.
I didn't check that part.
He says, "Surprise, mother," and then
he says, "You wouldn't part an old man from his walking stick."
Nomad over.
Would you?
I've got another sword.
He, if you hand it to him, he would take it and sort of lean on it and still be drinking water. And it's at this point that that Ansel and Kai probably enter back into the ship as well. And so you see this old man wearing brown and green, sort of tattered robes, leaning on this wooden cane, sipping out of this pouch, and he would just sort of look all of you over. Who are all of you?
Briar would sort of turn away and whisper link to Sigma to tell him to get us out of here.
And I think Randall would actually intercept, and he'd basically just be like, I'll take care of it. And so then Randall, not nearly the pilot that Briar is, would probably sit in the pilot seat and begin to just look for a route out of there. That's easy.
Oh yeah, I was just telling Sigma, like, hey, just fly in any direction. Like, just,
Yeah, no, and that's the point. Randall's like, nah, I'm not comfortable with trusting the computer to just float us somewhere safe. So I'm like sitting in there and like, okay, let me at least shepherd us somewhere.
Randall's like the grandpa when you're trying to add shopping list items to your Amazon Echo, and he's like, I'll just write it down. And you're like, Grandpa, you just tell the thing to do it.
I don't trust it.
The Astra FBI is listening to us. They want to know I need eggs.
Sigma, can cats eat chocolate?
Calling cats chocolate. What?
So Randall, you sink into the pilot seat, and it's not a difficult maneuver. You've already latched onto the stealth ship, and you're able to dislodge. There's a brief lurch. The airlock, Sigma sees put to close the airlock, and you begin drifting away from the stealth ship. Sorry, just in the chat. Lloyd said, we didn't salvage anything. And Jeff said, I got a short blade. He's like waving it around like a mall ninja. The old man leaning on his walking stick, he sort of catches himself as the ship lurches, as it dislodges from the stealth ship. He goes, my ship, it probably wasn't salvageable anyway. Please, is there a place I could sit? I'm barely standing.
Kurash would let him go.
He would stumble over to the nearest chair, probably at a glancer console, and he would just kind of sink into it and still sipping that water. And he would lay the staff across his lap, and he would begin absently sort of rubbing at that staff. You tell it's like a sort of a nervous, absent-minded tick as he begins sort of feeling with his thumb the curves and the indentations on this staff that he's probably carried for some time.
You are Anua.
Yes, I am. What is left of it. I am Masahiro Inoue, 16th in the line of succession, Sage of Forlorn. Myself and 2 others. They were dead. They're not here.
They weren't on the ship.
We were attacked. We were just en route to join up with the migrant fleet just past Daggerad. They boarded us so quickly. I don't know how. It all happened so quickly.
Briar would bring up that we were the first to open the doors and ask if he knew of any way that someone could board a ship without opening, without an opening big enough, basically.
Boarding a ship? There are Mancers who are capable of moving themselves through space. But these were not Mancers. These were not people. Or something else. And there were many of them.
You were the only person on the ship And I don't just mean alive. You were the only person of anything that we saw. Where did the rest of them go, if you even know?
They must have taken them. Once the fighting
There
started,
was a
I
lot of blood. I find it hard to believe that everyone just got taken peacefully. That room was, and he kind of realizes that he's being like a little insensitive about it. Sorry. There was a lot that seemed to have happened in there.
You need not apologize. War, combat is nothing new to me. I am not a warrior, but I have seen my fair share of bloodshed. They fought valiantly, and they likely died. Why they would take their corpses, I am not sure.
What did they look like, these things?
They were as men. They walked on 2 feet, but they were horrible. They were large, covered in fur. There was one large one, the rest small. They climbed on the walls like arachnids, swarmed over us. I barricaded myself in the sanctuary, used my astra to keep myself alive. It was imperative. But they took it. They boarded us and they took a seedling.
Seedling? What is that?
Person?
No. You're going to scoff when I tell you. It was a tree, a sapling. One of the last Skybreach saplings from Verloren.
Maybe the others scoffed, but Kai let out like a like she's amazed by that and really touched.
We were carrying it back to the Verloren migrant fleet. They took it. They took it and only it. It was like they were there for it. But what value would such a thing be to these creatures?
And Briar would ask, is there any value in something like that? You know, like, does it do anything special? Is there something aside from growing like a normal tree that it does?
The Skybreach trees grow tall and broad, and their wood can be shaped into many wondrous objects. The ship you just pulled me from is bolstered by such wood. Many of them were, well, almost all of them were lost when the Harbinger collided with Verloren. There are few left.
Scarcity has a value all its own.
Indeed, it would be worth a veritable pile of glint, I'm sure, but these creatures, what use would they have for glint? They were animals, beasts. They carried weapons, pulsers, but they fought like beasts.
Maybe this wood has some value to them. Maybe the material can be used for something. It sounds pretty handy.
Indeed, but like I said, it was just a seedling. It will be decades before it can be used for anything useful.
I would like to attempt, if there would be any way, in the time that I've spent as an engineer, for some of the high level septs, would there be any whisperings or sort of, talk of any uses of this wood, even if it was like a conspiracy theory? And what would you call for as far as a check or anything like that?
You can give me like just a history check if
Sure.
you have history.
Yep. Let me double check on that.
And if not, it would just be, straight intelligence.
Okay. Nope, no history. So it'll just be, yep, straight intelligence. Ooh. Okay, so 17 on the die.
Yep. So you would know that the wood of the Skybreach trees is definitely a sought after resource for building things. It is one of the few sort of materials that stands up to the rigors of travel in the void. Most Verloren starships use it, um, uh, and a lot of different like weapons and devices and stuff that the Verloren people use utilizes this wood rather than metal. Um, you don't know if it would have much use outside of like the Verloren migrant fleet, just because it's something that would have to be like cared for and nurtured and like grown in a very particular way. And it wouldn't be able to be harvested and used for, like the guy said, decades. So um, aside from it just being like a novelty thing and like you guys were saying, like scarcity, you can't imagine that anyone would find use for it tangibly right now.
And so from the piloting seat, sort of listening over my shoulder, I would make mention. Yeah, I had an opportunity to work on those ships only once. Your ships like that with that wood.
Got him.
Oh, Matt got me in the chat. You get inspiration for that. God, it was so good. That wood is it does something. It's like a sponge that can breathe in the void. And at this point he sort of clutches his arm absent-mindedly, and he says, some even say that the sap from those trees can do wonders, miracle cures and things like that. Anyway, maybe they're looking to grow their own.
Maybe now maybe these beasts aren't the sorts that might be into this, so tell me if I'm off base here, but for all we know, these things might have been mercs. Somebody else wants it, knows the value of it. Hire some thug creatures to do a smash and grab on it, get them out and then take it. Never be in the loop of evidence, things like that.
Briar would ask him, what would something like this be worth to the migrant fleet? Maybe tracking it down, finding it.
Well, as I said, I'm 16th in the line of succession. I don't exactly have a line direct to them, but if it were to be ransomed, it would likely be worth thousands of glint.
And you would be worth a handful, probably. Your safe return.
And he would kind of look at you and get kind of a suspicious sort of look on his face. Possibly.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Would we have an idea of where the migrant fleet is? Would we something we kind of know, or
he
we could ask him?
mentioned that he was going to sync up with them just beyond Daggerad, which is where you guys were headed originally. It's several days away.
Okay, so basically on the way or close to it. Certainly not out of the way to some degree.
Yeah.
So I would let him know we might be heading somewhere close to that way, kind of keeping it vague, not telling him we were going to Daggerad in particular. Probably ask him maybe if there's somewhere we could drop him off,
I was going to ask, is there a way to like follow the wake of a void ship? You know, like the Astra it leaves behind, so that we could potentially try and follow it somehow. This ship
Yeah,
that stole the seed.
I actually just popped that in the chat for you. That's definitely something that you can do. As I feel like I'm just, I'm like, hey guys, say this next.
Yeah.
Not,
Scripted. I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong page here. I gotta ask him this question first.
So a ship can be tracked much like a creature can. It leaves a lot of telltale signs, including a fairly distinct trail of Astra emitted from its engines. And so unless like ships like the Valoran stealth ships are like specifically designed where you can't track them easily through space. But most void ships, especially ones that have just passed through, before that Astra dissipates, a good astrogator can follow it pretty easily.
Okay, so Kai would know that, and she would, like without speaking, head over to Sigma and just like begin to interface and see if she can follow or like find any sort of trail.
Definitely. Give me a sensors check, +1.
14.
You reach out with your senses and you detect the vaguest hint back towards where you interface with the stealth ship. You can detect a trail of Astra leading off in the direction of the bleeding eye.
I'll say that quietly to Randall because he's at the controls as well. There's a trail leading to the bleeding eye of this ship that stole the Seedling.
I don't know what in our history together makes you think I'm capable of finding it.
She smiles, which is rare. I
think I would make note of that. I'd go, I got you.
You are technically able, no? You and Briar, you know how to program these things?
Yeah, I can give it a shot. And I think Randall would kind of have a moment there because I would probably go to call to Briar because I know that he's better at it. But thinking and just kind of having that, I don't know, maybe it was Kai's smile. I don't know, but I feel like I did something. Finally. And so I'm going to give it a shot. And so Matt, I think Lloyd and I are going to try to follow this trail. And so I'm going to do whatever it takes to basically make that happen.
Definitely.
Kai is aware of how Randall feels sometimes inferior to Briar. And she's seen like talent within Randall as well. So she would try and surreptitiously bolster him, giving him a D4. She doesn't want to make a big deal out of it. So she's going to like put her hand on his shoulder and say, "You are capable."
And I think following that smile, it would feel like it wasn't lip service. And so here we go, baby. This is either going to be a roleplay moment or a roleplay moment. Okay, so that's pretty killer. So 15 on the die, and the D4 is a 1. And then
so you'll be able to add your proficiency as well as the maneuverability of the Nomad, which is +2. So +4
Killer.
total added to that.
Beautiful. So 16, 17. So yeah. Is that a dirty 20? Did I count it right?
Dirty 20.
Is that a dirty 20?
I think it is.
14 on the die. No, it's not quite a dirty 20. It's a dirty 19. But,
is it a dirty 19?
Yeah, because you rolled 14 and then +1 from the D4 and then +4 total. So that'd be 19.
That's not as fun to say.
Almost. Dirty 19 sounds gross, actually.
That actually,
yeah.
we're going to edit that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not as good as clean 17.
Yeah, exactly.
I like
that
it.
sounds even worse almost. So you are able to with Kai's guidance, you're able to basically begin veering the Nomad to follow this ship. Kurash and Ansel and Briar, you guys feel the Nomad shift beneath your feet as its course changes.
Kurash doesn't move any more than a subtle sway as he just shifts with the ship. He is staring down at this kind of now gleaming energy around his body. He knows it won't last forever, but he's still looking at it while he can.
Would any of their conversation have been over whisperlinks, or was this like they were just talking to each other? Like, would we all be apprised of, hey, we're going after him?
I think it was private. Like Kai would have literally been whispering to him as opposed to on the whisper link.
Kurash turns to the nearby sconce, if one is there, and raises the specter to ask where they're going. And I imagine he'll get the...
Yeah, Sigma would flicker to life and say, "We have altered course. We are heading towards the Bleeding Eye currently."
That doesn't sound ominous at all to Kurash. Just nods. Looks to Briar.
Briar's first thought would be any concern of, you know, running out of some sort of fuel or not having enough rations. This isn't a place that's like far away, or like, you know, so far away that like we're gonna break down because they didn't tell anybody where we were going.
Yeah, and the Bleeding Eye is definitely distant. Like you'd have to travel for days and days and days to get there, but you know you're not necessarily going to the Bleeding Eye. You're just heading in that direction. You're using it as a point of reference sort of thing.
Okay, yeah. All right, so yeah, Briar wouldn't worry much about that. You know, would imagine that, oh, they're tracking the ship, and he would be quite surprised that Randall went for that, but would be interested to, you know, potentially make some glint off this, possibly ransoming the Seedling if we can find it.
Awesome. So the Nomad settles into its course with Randall at the helm and Kai in the astrogator seat. And with that, we will take a short break. We're about halfway through the session now. So we'll go ahead and do our pee-pee poo-poo break, and then we'll be back shortly to continue the session. So thanks, everyone, for watching. We've got a good turnout tonight. So again, if you're interested in Harbinger, if this seems cool, if this seems fun, you can play this too. And there's a link down in the description for the free play test. So definitely check that out. All right, we'll be right back. Stick around. All right.
Hello.
What's up,
What
dude?
you have there, Matt?
I'm trying a new seltzer.
It looked like a tiny Miller High Life.
Miller Low Life is what.
Miller Low
baby.
So it's called the Diet Miller High Life.
Yeah, it's a Diet Miller Light. Oh no, I haven't. I should have tried my new thing, Barker. I didn't call anyone ding dongs.
Oh, you didn't call it ding dong da dang da dang.
Dang it.
Da dong da dang ding.
My new
What?
thing when I
Bada-bong-bong.
see somebody, as I go, "What's up, ding dong?" Like that's. I'm trying it out. I'm just seeing how it feels. And
It's a new thing.
yeah,
Trying
it's
it
really
out.
I'm just trying it out.
Earlier.
Listen, I work from home. I don't get out very much, so I gotta, you know,
Here's the
gotta try
thing.
some different stuff.
I thought you meant in Harbinger. Like trying this out, designing this game.
Like
You
I
know,
think like
sometimes,
Like the way they swear in Chinese in Firefly, in Harbinger, you just say ding dang.
yeah.
What's up, ding dong?
Oh.
That's how Sepp Verloren
yeah, it's like
says hi.
Battlestar Galactica, they say frack. Firefly, you know, they mingle the Chinese in there. In Harbinger, they call everybody ding dong.
Ding dong.
In Star Wars, they say hell.
Yep. See you in hell. It's my favorite Han Solo moment.
That's a good one.
Your tauntaun will freeze before it reaches the first marker, and he's just like, dude, don't even with me right now.
It's
I
like
like
you are
how
not the
it-
hero of the story.
Yeah.
I like when he just chases those stormtroopers down the hallway, and
Yep.
and then he's like, "Oh, damn!
That's a good one too.
It's the whole cafeteria filled with stormtroopers over here."
I like
Oops.
how they didn't feel that was enough, and so in the special edition, it's like 1,000
Yeah.
stormtroopers. Like him coming around the corner and having like a dozen stormtroopers standing there was not enough. Like they were like, no,
Oh,
Han Solo wouldn't run from a dozen stormtroopers. We got to put an AT-AT in there. Like just put everything. There's TIE fighters flying around, Darth Vader standing there. Like make sure that it looks just everyone's there, so that when he
Yes.
runs around the corner and then runs away, you don't feel like Han Solo's a coward.
Perfect.
That
reminds me of the when The Force Awakens only had a teaser trailer and someone redid it to look like the prequels, and there's like 90 more TIE fighters flying past the Falcon. Just
when
kind of stuff like
when
that's perfect.
when Finn is in the desert, there's like a bunch of creatures behind him, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's so dense. There's just so much on screen.
Every frame.
Every frame is just so dense. All right, everyone's back. You guys ready to continue?
Yes.
Awesome. So you track this Astra trail for several hours. You pass through several different debris fields. You skirt around the husk of an old Dominion battle cruiser, long ago stripped clean of anything useful. You pass by a couple uninhabited moonlets on their wide, distant orbits. Bastion behind you gets smaller and smaller, and the bleeding eye, this swirling sort of oval ringed with Astra, just looms before you. You have several hours to speak with Masahiro Inoue. He spends most of the time resting, recovering, drinking water. Eventually he eats some rations. But if there are any particular questions that you have for him, he'd be happy to answer them. And if not, he'll just play I Spy the whole time.
Is it
Yeah.
the bleeding eye again? I guessed it again.
Is
You're
it- or
terrible
is
at
it
this game.
space? Is it? Are you spying space?
again?
Yeah.
Space. But no, I don't think Briar would have any more questions than what we asked him. Just kind of waiting for us to potentially catch up with these other people.
Yeah.
Does he get that impression? Does sorry, you said his name, but the Inoue fellow.
Yeah, Masahiro Inoue.
Does he? That sounds like that line from the Book of Mormon, Hasadiga Ebowai. Masahiro, does he know where we're going, or does he seem concerned that we're just like he probably felt this divert as well? Does he know we're following the people that just laid his crew?
He would sort of ask you, your course is not taking us to Daggerad. Where are you going?
And I don't think Briar would hesitate to tell him, I'm going to track down your seedling.
You're going to recover it.
He said track down.
That is, well, just based on your appearances, I can only guess that you're going after this because, well, there's glint. But that doesn't matter. It is priceless to my people. We are decimated, scattered. Any piece that we can recover of our home is invaluable. You will be well compensated.
And if the price doesn't seem good enough, then we can contact some of the other septs and see what they will pay.
Yes, I suppose you could.
I was going to say, it better not be invaluable. It's definitely going to be a value on it by the time we get it.
You wheeler. That's perfect.
Kai would like to ask Masahiro, you're a Mancer. You must be.
I dabble.
That looked significant. The field you put around yourself.
I used to be... Well, I used to do more than dabble. I'll say that. I told you I had seen my fair share of combat. I have served my sept in many conflicts. I specialize in green astra, protective spells, shielding. Mostly, I would make sure pulse rounds didn't make it through the void barriers on our ships. And I got damn good at it. When you're 16th in line of succession, you have to make yourself useful somehow.
And Kai looks at him. She turns her head to the side, trying to figure it out. Could you teach me?
All she did was ask. It occurs to Kurash. He'd never thought to ask.
Yes, I suppose I could.
We have a few hours before we find where they are.
Would you like to know how I preserved myself within the void?
Yes.
He kind of looks at your eyes. You can't be one of them. But you have the same eyes.
I have been through significant training.
Indeed. Then you are likely more capable than I am. I will teach you what I know. And he basically instructs you of how to... the spell itself, the movements required to conjure this spell are very similar to the kind of thing that you would... the kind of process that you would use to conjure something like a particle shield or spectral armor. But it is it's basically a bubble that will create an environment of air, a sealed environment within a low oxygen environment. It will also grant AC bonuses to everyone inside, but will not allow you to fire out of it. So I will say it's a, let's call it an Astra 3 for now. And we'll work out the exact mechanics later. But for now, if you want to use it during this session, we can just kind of figure it out as we go.
Rad. I love that you just made that up on the spot. I think it'll take Kai some time to like master it, so we can get actual mechanics before I start slamming out these made up spells.
Perfect. Yeah. No, this is great. This is exactly why we're in this campaign, because you're like, hey, can I learn how to do that spell? And I'm like, yep, sure. You sure can. I wanted to add a spell like that to work with the location conditions anyway, so that's perfect. And yeah, it's not a complicated spell, but it does require your body to channel quite a bit of Astra to conjure a shield big enough to do that.
So she would spend the hours of the travel like speaking intently with Masahiro, and she listens very intently. Like she might be more trained, might be like more of an academic, but this man has decades of experience, and that's something that Kai finds very valuable.
I was going to ask Briar if you wanted to inspect that that mod that you found.
Oh, yes, I do. He's been looking at it this whole time like, man, I can't wait to get a chance to really dive into this thing. We're driving for 3 hours. Yes, so, driving. So what do I do here?
So with you guys are essentially right now you're taking a short rest is what you're doing. And so it doesn't require a roll to identify what this thing is. This is a Mancer module. And if attached to a melee weapon, will allow you to cast a cantrip from that melee weapon. So if you attach it, it takes up 2 slots. And basically, you can choose a spell of Astrofade 0. You can now cast that spell at will as long as you are wielding the weapon using your charisma as a spellcasting modifier. You do not have access to the spell's boosts, however. So it just adds a cool, you can put a cool thing on a melee weapon. You have never seen technology like this before. It's pretty advanced, but you imagine that with enough time and effort, you could probably attach it to a melee weapon. And you could try right now if you wanted to.
I would like to try right now. So I forgot, but are Jeff and Lloyd both Mancers? I forgot who the Mancers are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because basically, whichever one of them would want to attach their melee weapon, I don't know how I would choose that, but I would certainly try.
The nice thing is that this would allow anyone to cast a cantrip.
Oh, I see. So I can put it on my gun.
You can put it on any melee weapon you want.
Oh, I see. When you said a Mancer one, I assumed it was like, sorry.
Yeah, it's called a Mancer module, but it's called a Mancer module because it can turn you into. It's like, hey, you can be a Mancer too. You can cast.
So yes, I would love to try to do that.
Cool.
I do already have something, but I'll have to figure it out later. But that's okay. Are you looking up the rules on how I do that?
I sure am.
My favorite was earlier when you whispered, "I designed this."
That's gonna be my mantra of me looking stuff up. I designed this. Okay. Weapon mods. Okay. A character attempting to augment a weapon with a mod must do so during a short or long rest. They can only attempt to attach one mod at a time. They must make an intelligence check, adding their proficiency with the arc tool if applicable. The DC of this check is denoted by each mod. If they succeed on the check, the mod has been successfully attached. If they fail the check, they fail to augment the weapon and must wait 24 hours before attempting to attach the mod again. So, whose weapon are you going to attach this to?
Mine.
Okay, cool.
For sure.
That's my boy.
So, let's go ahead and make that intelligence check, adding your proficiency with arc tools.
Arc tools, awesome. So that's a dirty 20. No, it's a 19 plus 4. So yeah, 23.
Awesome.
Oh, it's a dry clean 19. All right.
Yeah,
dry clean
19. I love it. The attachment DC for this mod was 18.
Oh,
so that's awesome.
Oh, what?
So it takes you a long time to do this, but you successfully install the mod into what do you install it into?
So that's a really good question. Do both? I have a hand axe and a short scattergun. Do they both have 2 slots?
So it has to be a melee weapon.
Oh, melee weapon. So then definitely my hand axe.
Okay, cool. And now you need to choose a Astrofade 0 spell. So it would be Astrobolt, Bolster, Torchlight, or Grab Shift.
Ooh, so I have grab shift already because I'm awesome. By awesome, I mean Voidborn.
Oh yeah, I forgot Voidborn gets stuff too.
I would probably go Astral Bolt. That's a damaging spell, isn't it?
It is. Yep.
Yeah, I would
it
go Astral
absolutely
Bolt for
is.
sure.
Cool.
Sweet.
So you attach this module, and I imagine that it's like these astroconductive sort of orichalcum wiring, like going over the head of the axe, and it like has this like constant like red glow as the Astra is sort of channeling through it.
Oh yeah.
Dude, and I'm that neighbor standing in my neighbor's garage while he's working on his car with my arms crossed, like, oh, okay, you're gonna do it that way. Oh, yeah. Oh, you're gonna use, all right. No, that's that's one way to do it. Yeah, 1/4 inch. That would work.
Like when you open the hood of a car and people flock to it, like they have no idea what they're doing, but they're just like, yeah, that
yeah,
it's like
man,
your
I'm
carburetor.
I'm like, yeah, it looks like I'm just sitting there with my heckin' arms crossed, and so yeah.
Awesome. All right. Cool. We've successfully attached our first mod in Harbinger. I'm way too excited about that. That's so
No,
awesome.
we've successfully, selfishly attached our own mod to our own weapon.
Perfect.
Like people
Get
are
in
like,
line, fellas.
hey, what, Briar, what is that? And you're just like, don't worry about it.
Don't worry. No, it's something. It's
no big
He
deal.
like,
trash.
he like walks into his room and closes. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Close the door.
I'm in my room. Close the door.
And, yeah, Randall stupidly is like, oh, this is that thing he found on the ship.
I don't know what you're talking about. And then, yeah, like you said, I come out with the coolest looking axe you've ever
Yeah.
seen.
You're like, yeah, you recreate that scene from Christmas Story where they're banging on the door and you're in there with your decoder pin, like trying to attach this module.
Drink more Astra. Drink more Astra. Can I just say too
Briar,
that
Randall needs to go. Open up the door.
well, I just was like having edited these and writing some of it's crazy to see how they work in the game and that they're actually working. I don't know if that sounds weird, but I'm like, oh my God, it's not falling apart.
No, exactly. That's why I wanted to run this campaign, because like one shots are one thing. Like you're not finding weapon mods and attaching them in a one shot. You're starting with like 3 mods a piece, you know? So it's really good to be like, okay, weapon mods work pretty well. The checks are okay.
Right?
The thing I just remembered that I hope that you don't remember.
What?
What is that called? When something can be broken?
Oh yeah.
Conditions, weapons,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
armor
weapon
conditions.
conditions.
Oh
Yeah, yeah,
man, yeah. I
Oh, man.
forgot how scared I should be of actually using my stuff.
I know.
Yeah,
and
dude.
I need to be hitting you guys with that because
I'm like, my stuff's all pristine. Yeah, exactly. So it matters.
It does, man. It's funny too, because I specifically remember the Mancer mod because we were having a conversation and we were going back and forth in the chat, and then it was like, oh yeah, we need to make sure that they don't use boosts.
yeah, because it could get ridiculous.
Yeah, like it's just little things like that, man. This is so fun.
Doing a 3d8 damage out of his hand axe. All right.
Exactly.
So over the course of that short rest, so basically Kai is learning a new spell. Briar is attaching a weapon mod. No one else gets anything cool that they can do, or anything new. No, is there anything in particular that you guys want to do? Randall, you're sort of in the pilot seat. You know, you don't have to sit there the entire time. You sort of set the course, and you're able to get up and do things. Is there anything in particular that you guys want to do before you get to your destination?
I probably would just get hungry and dodge a migraine.
Me IRL. And you used a spheroid.
I did. I got some fade.
Oh yeah. Oh, short rest. You can roll to get some fade. No, you can reduce your fade, right?
Yep. Well,
I designed this game.
according to 0.5, I can.
Yeah. No, you definitely can. Yeah, I think you can. 1 second. I just want to make sure I'm clear.
No,
on
you're
this.
good.
It's complete a long rest.
Oh, and this is not a long rest? The bleeding eye is not that far away, huh?
No.
I can do it on a short rest.
Yeah, that's
Mancer's
right.
can.
Mancer's
Yeah.
can.
Which I will do.
That's right.
So I'm
Absolutely.
still, yo, man, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm faded over here.
Perfect. Okay, yeah. For some reason, I thought that there was a thing that everyone could do on a short rest. but no,
I thought there was too. It could have been a
maybe that was
conversation we had.
was maybe an older version.
That's
So
possible.
there are
too.
some suggestions I went ahead and added to the doc.
One of them is removing my fade right now. So just accept that edit.
It's just a long rest, and you can reduce your astrofade by a number equal to your astrofade limit to a minimum of 0.
I think we did that on purpose, especially because so the Mancer would feel.
I think
like they're
think
masters
that
of
was the reason why we did that is because
Siphon
someone
stuff?
brought it to my attention. It may have even been Lloyd. I can't remember, but they were like, "Hey, if I'm like 15 over my astrofade, if I take a long rest, am I just back at 0?" And I was like, "Oh, no." Like we need to rein that in a little bit. So
Right, so it's not like we
yeah, exactly.
dodge death. I'm
Yeah,
super.
exactly. Okay, cool. So you guys you travel for about 3 or 4 hours, and at that time the specter flickers to life on the main glancer module, and Sigma says, "We are approaching a void ship 1,000 leagues from our current position. The astro signature of the ship is weak. They appear to be waiting."
And that's too real for me. And so I would call it Briar. Because as accomplished as I felt getting us here and making that choice and having that moment, that's like, nope, the adults are here. So I would.
Briar comes in.
You reading this?
Yeah, he comes in doing the Ansel, swinging his axe around.
Firing off astro bolts.
What's that?
That reminds me of the sealed condition. Legit, if you do that really inside of a vessel, you can destroy the seal, which will make it low grav or some of the. So that's one of the location conditions.
So yeah, I would go to the bridge and potentially take his spot in the area, and I would look over to Kai, who I imagine at this point I would at least call to the astrogation and kind of say, "Hey, maybe do that thing again where you look at the ship and tell us about it."
She'll nod and she'll just bow her head politely to Masahiro and then make her way over to the station.
Perfect. Go ahead and give me that the sensors check again.
It's gonna be a 13.
It's difficult here, and as you reach out, you can see why your senses are a little muddled. Where the astro signature is sort of apparent, you see this massive sort of desiccated corpse floating in space. You're not quite sure what it is at first. It almost looks like a void ship of some kind, this massive void ship, almost as big as the Alzarine warships. But then as you probe closer, you can see that it's something of flesh and blood, something that has been dead for a while, that is decaying out here in space. This is one of the as I say it, I'm going to forget the name of it. It's a Galayanar, which are these massive creatures that can survive in the vacuum of space and feed off of Astra itself. This corpse is half rotted. You can see its massive rib cage exposed on its side, and you can, with your senses of Astra, you can see that there is Astra all over this thing. It's leaking Astra. It's hard to discern what could be around here because of that. It's definitely clouding your senses.
I cannot see clearly the Galayanar, huge astro leaking everywhere. I can't see.
So we're kind of like a little bit flying blind, sort of past where this thing is. But so this is the thing we were picking up, or there's also a ship? We just can't get a better read on it because this thing's field is kind of in the way.
Sigma sort of specifies there is a distinct Astra signature from within the Golianar, matching the Astra trail we have been tracking.
And so Briar would look over at Pierce and kind of, as a callback to earlier, say, you wanted a trap? Now this is definitely a trap. I guess I would ask my companions if we should go in guns blazing and basically just punch holes through this Golianar and potentially whatever ship's in there.
We spoke earlier of how the Mansers were able to get through into the ship without breaking through the airlock. That is a technique that I was taught on Tharkestra. I can appear where I wish to be. Perhaps we could get close. I could grab the Seedling and we could simply run.
If there are still, maybe old world vinyl records, upon him saying that, there is just a distinct record scratch as Briar looks at Kai. But he would look sort of to everyone and kind of say that seems like the best idea. But Briar's main concern would be getting as close as possible. Obviously they're waiting for something. They probably knew we were following them. So he'd be concerned, but he'd certainly be up for trying it.
Not to mention that we actually need to know where this thing is in there. The Seedling, I imagine something like that, even if it's for a very large tree, would be quite small. On a ship, there's a lot of room to work through. If you end up in the wrong room, you'd be in a bad spot. It's a guessing game. You don't know where you're going to get into until you're there.
We shall have to use our sensors very carefully. We could, of course, simply try and board them, but Masahiro said that there was a great many of them.
And Briar would say, well, but if you can both do the same things, couldn't they teleport onto our ship?
It's a good question, which I do not know the answer to.
Masahiro would speak up and say, they only boarded us after they disabled our engines and void barriers. As long as you are moving, as long as the barriers are up, they shouldn't be able to do whatever it is that they did.
And so Briar would say, all right, well, it sounds like we get in relatively close as you need to, Kai. But we keep moving and, any moves or anyone else comes out and, well, we get a couple of you on the guns.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have the fancy maneuvers that Kai here does, so I'm not able to join her in this little expedition. Perhaps for the best for my own health, but I will gladly man the guns.
And Briar would say, so if there are no objections, and, unless somebody objected, he would begin flying closer to the Golianar trap, basically. Yeah. What is it? Golianar? Is that
Golianar?
Yeah.
Oh, man. So Briar's in character mispronounces that because James is going to do that a lot.
We're going to fly to that Golianar over there.
Golianar. That Golemar.
Think Goliath Nar.
Yeah, Golianar.
Yeah, I'm like, you're basically saying, remember the word. And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to.
I'm giving you a mnemonic device, you twit.
No,
So,
that's not how those work.
Well, it is for me. So the thing that I would do is Randall, as he's getting ready to do this, and Matt, this is something that we kind of talked about in the playtest, so I'm making this up. So you tell me.
Yep. Throw it at me.
So the idea is for flavor, Randall pulls out 3 of those pyramid spheroids and has this sort of moment where he places them, like he floats one next to him, and then the other 2 he sort of locks into place at the navigation center. And the idea is what I'm going to try to do is be the navigator and assist the pilot. So I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if I can give him bonuses or a D4 or whatever, but I'm going to try to be like Flight of the Navigator over here while he's flying.
That's perfect. That's awesome.
So whatever that looks like, and we can make that up.
Yep, absolutely. So basically what I'll need to know from you guys as you're preparing here, we're going to fill certain roles within the ship. And this is very similar to like Adventures in Middle-earth, like the journey system, where everyone sort of takes on a role within the ship. So we'll need a pilot. We can have up to 2 gunners. And then everyone else will fill some sort of support class, whether it be an astrogator, someone in the engine room doing stuff, all that kind of stuff. There's also, if you don't want to do any of those roles, such as Kai waiting to sort of teleport over to the ship, she would just go after all of those things. So I'll need to know from you guys who's going to fill each role: pilot, the gunner spots, and any support roles that you guys want to fill. So I know, Briar, you're probably going to be pilot. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And then
Called it.
And then
Did.
Randall,
I'll,
you're going to
hop on
be
the guns
in a
for
support
sure.
role.
Yeah, I'll take a support role. Essentially, I'm Sulu.
Perfect. And then what did you say, Jeff?
Then I'll gladly hop on the guns.
Perfect. Okay. Guns. Kurash, what are you doing?
Kurash approaches Kai and kind of separate from everyone else and mutters with an oscillating tone, "Can you take me with you?" He looks concerned.
I don't know if Kai knows or not. She's never tried that before. So she would say, "I'm uncertain." Could be very dangerous for both of us.
He nods and does something he's very familiar with. He places, he puts away his very simple steel glaive and pulls out a satchel of arc tools, and he'll head to the engine room to help repair the ship if need be.
Cool. So you'll also be taking on support.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So that's a good question, Lloyd. And I will say that you could.
Like mechanically, I can't, but I'm willing to burn just like a shit ton of Astra to bring him if it's.
That's what I'm thinking. And I actually, this is something that I've wanted to add to the magic section of the book, and basically be like, you can try and do different things with spells, and your GM can basically like increase the astrofate of that thing in order for you to do crazy stuff with it. So I will say that you can, so you're using Void Slip, I am assuming.
Yeah.
And that's astrofade 2.
Yeah.
You can, but it will basically cost 2 boosts to try and take someone with you.
Yes,
I'm
double it,
down.
baby.
I'm doing it. Yep.
Okay, cool. All right.
So then I guess Kurash heads towards the engine, and she would walk behind him and like put her hand on his shoulder, like way up here. I will try.
It registers, and his face brightens. He goes over, puts away the arc tools, and brandishes his glaive.
Killer. Awesome. I'm so excited. Okay, so
PLAYTEST, baby.
I'm gonna get meta for a second here and just let you guys know how this is gonna go down, because we are gonna have a combat here, even though it hasn't started yet. Basically, in order to keep things truncated, like a little bit compartmentalized on the ship, combat happens in phases. So you have a pilot phase, a gunner phase, support phase, and boarding phase. And basically, you roll initiative within those phases. And so even though the pilot might roll a lower initiative than you, the pilot always goes during the pilot phase, and the pilot takes their pilot actions. And so that's a way for us to sort of keep everything straight, so that the pilot is affecting what the gunner is doing, what the support is doing, all that kind of stuff. And then any sort of boarding actions, which is you're on the ship fighting or whatever, happens after that. So,
and during the playtest, one of the things that we identified was if everyone rolled initiative all together, the pilot also couldn't feel awesome because the 2 gunners just rolled higher.
yeah.
So two pilots can now go head to head. So the pilot with the higher skill or the higher role actually feels like a better pilot in that moment. And so that's something that we were really proud of.
Yeah. And then like we were sort of realizing like if everyone went at the same time in typical combat, everyone would be doing readied actions all the time. Like the gunner would be like, okay, I'm going to hold my action until we get close enough to the ship, or I'm going to, the pilot's like, I'm going to hold my action until this happens or whatever. So hopefully this works out. We're going to try it here.
I'm so excited, man.
So you approach the Golianar. Everyone takes their places. There's a quiet that falls over the ship. The lights are low. Sigma, flickering in its sconce, is just kind of surveying the crew, looking at everyone on the bridge as they're sitting there. And as you get close to the Golianar, you all hear a familiar and terrifying sound, which is the sound of pulsars being fired in a vacuum. And you see the gleam of a ship that sort of like hovers into the open space of this Golianar corpse as a Scrug raid boat makes itself known inside the corpse of this giant space whale. So everyone roll initiative, please.
Oh.
Dope. Dirty 20, baby. What the hell, you guys? Holy crap.
Oh, no. I'll balance it right out. Hold on.
Total 21.
Jeez. Okay, awesome.
Nice.
7 all up. I feel like
it's going to be like 21, 21, 21, 20, 27.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right.
Guys, I found a Golianar. It's huge.
All right, so the first phase in the combat is the pilot phase. And Briar, you are the pilot of the Nomad, and you rolled higher than the Scrug pilot. The actions that you were able to take, in addition to just moving the ship, so you're able to command the ship to move, you can dash, which is just like a character. You move twice your movement. You can dodge, which basically means that attacks against you have disadvantage, but it also means that your gunners have disadvantage. So if you're going to dodge, you're kind of going all over the place, taking evasive maneuvers. It makes it harder for you to hit things. Or you can attempt to ram.
Okay, so is this? Are we under the impression that this is the ship we've been following based on the Astra trail? Do we know that? Do we not know that?
You don't know 100% for sure, but it can be assumed that this is the ship because Sigma mentioned that there was an Astra signature inside the Golianar that matched the one that you've been tracking, and didn't mention that there were any others. So unless there's a bunch of ships inside the Golianar corpse, which you hope to God that there aren't, it's definitely the ship that you are tracking.
Okay, yeah. So based on the fact that we are trying to get close to it, but also based on the fact that our ship hasn't taken any damage yet, I'm gonna dash toward it. Basically, get as close to the ship as I can in one turn.
Cool. Yeah. So the movement on the Nomad, I think, is 25 leagues. So you punch it, and everyone just kind of goes back in their seats as the ship, and you put the Astra engines on hard burn, and you're able to move 50 leagues toward this ship, which puts you about 30 leagues away from it now.
Jesus. Because we need to be within one, right?
You need to be on top of it.
It's to work. Okay. All right. So, okay. Yep.
All right, cool. So that was you. Now the Scrug pilot gets to go. The Scrug pilot is going to basically just continue. It's inside the corpse of this Golianar, and it just sort of is. It's not even moving forward or backward. It's just kind of shifting back and forth using these little emitters on the sides of the engine, just kind of taking cover here inside the Golianar, which we're just using cover rules. So it's getting half cover. It gets +2 AC. Everything is just, it's hopefully just exactly like creature combat with some minor changes. All right. So that was the pilot phase. It is now the gunner phase. And Ansel, you get to go first.
Yeah, so Ansel's in the gunner chair, just trying to like judge exactly kind of this back and forth motion of it. Just trying to be ready to try to guess its movement and fire. He's going to try to let this thing have it. So it looks like I have the ship up here that it's a +4 to hit and then 4d6 +2 damage. Jesus, that's a lot.
Yeah, the pulsar cannons are gnarly.
I have already rolled and I got an 18 on the die, so that's 22 to hit this ship.
Even with the cover, that hits.
All right, and this is going to be a lot. That's 22 damage.
Very cool.
As he finally kind of readies, he sees the moment, just lets out a shot from the pulsar cannon, just letting it through space, right towards this thing, even between the bones of the corpse.
Yeah, these red sort of rounds of Astra just fire out through space, and they clip the side of the Scrug raid boat, and you see debris fly off the side of it, and you see Astra begin venting from the systems that you destroyed with this attack. That's so awesome. All right, the Scrug raid boat's going to take a shot. Ooh, that's definitely going to be a hit. Okay. Armor class on the Nomad is 15. Yep. Okay. So they hit. All right. Do you guys want me to keep track of the Nomad's hit points?
That would be amazing.
That would be great.
Just
you guys let us know when we're dying.
Well, you're dead now. No, I'm just kidding. So you all lurch as pulsar rounds rip through the top layer of your void barrier, some of them sort of slamming into the side of the hull. The ship rocks for a second and then rights itself, getting back on course as the Nomad takes 16 damage from the pulsar cannons on the raid boat. All right, that was Gunner. We're now in the support phase, which means Kai, you're up. So support is kind of nebulous right now. We don't really have any specific actions that you can take. So basically just explain to me what you're wanting to do on your turn, and I can sort of decide what you can do with that.
Yep. So she's trying to get a scan of the inside of the Scrug vessel, basically trying to locate the Seedling. But also, if she can't do that, just a sense of life signs and stuff like that.
Perfect. Yeah. Go ahead and give me a sensors check.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay. It's 15 on the die plus 1 and 2 is 18.
18. With that, you are able to tell exactly how many life forms are aboard this ship. You sense 4 Astra-bearing life forms. 3 of them minuscule. 1 of them a little less minuscule, a little bigger, a little more capable. Those are the only Astra-bearing life signs that you detect aboard the ship. It appears to be a small ship on the inside with a bridge, several cabins, and then a small cargo hold near the rear of the ship, near the aft of the ship, excuse me.
Excellent. So I'll take note of that and I'll put in my mind, it's probably in the cargo hold. She's like thinking about the Seedling all the time.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, Randall, you're on support, buddy. What do you want to do?
For sure. So just a thought, like playtest thought.
Yeah.
I don't know how often there would be 2 support, but I was thinking that support might also be kind of a risk reward thing that goes at the top of the order before the pilot. So that I have to decide who I'm going to help. Am I going to help James fly, or am I going to help Jeff shoot? Just because right now they've kind of gone.
Yep.
So I'm doing afterthought stuff.
That's very true. I'm going to put.
So just a thought. And then the other thing I was going to say is that I don't want to make it too convoluted, but you could have support. If there are 2 supports, one begins and one ends. So it's at the top of the initiative and at the end of the initiative. And so you have to decide what you're going to do at the top or at the end. Do I want to check and see how many people are on the ship? I can do that, but then I can't help anybody do their stuff.
Right.
So it's kind of makes it a little like risk reward system for support.
Okay, cool. All right.
Something in that neighborhood.
Yeah, totally. I'm going to move you guys to the top right now because that makes perfect sense. Because then you'd be able to help out pilot or gunner.
Right.
Or board.
And kind of go in that, in that direction. So,
yep, totally.
So what I'm going to do is, because I feel like Lloyd has the experience here, I'm more just trying to, fidget with knobs and dials to give her more power, Captain. So I think, I don't know.
We do have the Nomad has one mod on it called Barrier Boost. Where I thought I had the thing open. Oh my god. Oh, here it is. That you could do if you wanted to, Tim. Basically, you can increase the ship's astrofade by 1 and then add 2 to its AC.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I feel like I would do that if for no other reason, sheer inexperience and fear. Randall is not from this world. So this is a knee jerk. This is sort of, turn the dial up all the way.
Yeah.
And maybe at the chagrin of all the experienced people, because I just burned some Astra to do it. So I will do that.
Okay, perfect. So there is a rattle to the ship as Randall increases the juice coursing through this ship, and the void barriers glow a vibrant green as more Astra is pushed to the void barriers outside, increasing the Nomad's AC by 2. Very cool. And the astrofade limit on the Nomad is 3. So bad stuff doesn't start happening until you get to that number. All right, awesome. So that was support. Boarding hasn't happened yet, but Karash, if you wanted to do something on your turn, you certainly could.
Kurash does the same thing he would do before every boarding. He imagines his favorite dream. He sees that same skyscraping city of gold from thousands of years ago that he's probably never been to, and he tries to meditate on that until it's time.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. Back up at the top of the initiative with the support phase. So Kai, you are up first. You can also I'll say that you can switch roles if you wanted to basically just wait until we got close enough to port over, because you may get close enough this turn.
She wants to be ready, definitely. So that's like her main concern, is being ready, so that when we're in that tiny window as we're going like incredibly fast, that she's ready. So if there's time for her to scan again, she'll do so. If not, she'll just go and stand next to Kurash and begin the kind of process.
Cool. Yeah, I'll say that you're able to do that because you're coming up on this thing fast and you're going to hit it probably this turn. So I will put you on boarding phase with Kurash.
Brad.
Randall.
All right. So specifically, I just burnt a bunch of juice on the shields. So now I think what I would probably do is focus on the guns. So knowing that Kurash is preparing to board and kind of hearing that going on, I would focus on Ansel. And so, all right, Ansel, buddy. And so I would sort of start dialing in, using my spheroids as the sort of interfaces to this older, like Battlestar Galactica style. And so there's this mishmash of this analog and digital. And what I'm trying to do is maybe look for weaknesses. So I'm doing the whole, just scanning. Maybe I'm doing flat laser scan. But I'm essentially looking for that spot. Where's the weak spot on this nasty raid boat that we can really cut through? So that's what I'm trying to do.
Perfect. So we can just call that a help action. So basically the gunners, specifically Jeff, will get a advantage on his attack.
Cool. And if possible, I would like him to shoot Kai while she's in just teleporting.
He
Just
actually
blow
he
her.
does it in a brief moment when she's between the ships, and he just pops her with
Dude,
the.
just like Saving
Yeah.
Private Ryan, 50 cal, a head
Yeah.
is a balloon.
Yep, exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll play a Scrub next game.
Yeah.
Canon.
Oh boy. All right. So pilot phase, Briar, you're up first. You're within 30 leagues of the raid boat.
Okay, so the normal movement is 25 leagues, so a dash would get us within what we needed to, right?
Definitely.
So yeah,
Yep.
I would definitely dash again. And they don't seem to be moving, so my plan would be to fly, directly at them until sort of the last moment and go sort of directly beneath them.
Perfect. Okay, you can absolutely do that. All right. Again, Scrug pilot, not doing much. All right. Gunner phase, Ansel, you're up. You have advantage on your attack.
Yeah, so there's like all these like spheroids that Randall has put to help him kind of focus the gun, and he's like trying to get to zoom in on that exact right spot, kind of using his hands, and then also kind of using like gentle pushes of yellow Astra from Gravshift just to try to get it in exactly the spot that it'll shoot right where these spheroids directed it. And with advantage, it's going to be another 22. And that is
definitely
going to be
hits.
15. It's going to be 15 piercing as he kind of locks in on that spot that the spheroids point at, and then just getting it to exactly there before another shot.
Beautiful. So the Nomad plays chicken with this raid boat, and then just at the last minute and kind of dips below the raid boat, and you just fire this pulsar cannon right across the bottom of this thing, and you just see debris shooting off in every direction, Astra and air venting from these holes that you're putting into the raid boat. Beautiful. They also take a shot and horribly miss. They were not expecting you to dip below the ship like that, and so you see the tracers from their pulsar cannons just sort of missing, just veering right over the top. Okay, it is boarding phase. Kai, you are right beneath this Scrug ship, easily within 40 feet.
Okay. So this is not a situation in which she can do her usual exercises. Otherwise, she would be, in space, and she needs to be here and present. So she is standing opposite Kurash. She looks up at his face, and then as she's channeling the energies, she just puts her hand on his chest, and then there's a and they vanish, and then hopefully appear in the Scrug cargo hold.
You appear in the Scrug cargo hold. You are not sure if it was going to work, but you're there. So that would be 2 Astrofade.
That's 4 because I had to carry him.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So I'm over by 1.
Plus, you had to boost to get to 40 feet.
So I'm over by 2 then.
Yep.
Okay.
So we get to roll.
Oh boy.
Let me get to the tables here.
First one's a D6, I think, right?
Yeah, I believe the first one is a D6. Yep, D6.
I'm going to explode.
Let's hope.
Oh god. You want to roll it or should I?
Go ahead and roll it.
It's a 6. Is it good or bad?
So you're going to take 6 force damage
Oh,
as
Jesus.
you channel probably more Astra than you've ever channeled at one time.
I'm on 1 hit point. So she channels all this energy, and I guess you would see in the last moments before she leaves the ship with Kurash, there's this yellow Astra coming from her eyes and floating upwards and from her mouth and her nostrils, just moving out all through her body before there's a and she's gone. She would land and just immediately fall to her knees.
Kurash would catch her and he would say dangerous, the same word that she spoke to him earlier. And he would lay her down softly on whatever sack or crate was nearby.
The tree.
He nods, and he knows that she knows what to do, and so he'll kind of turn and head further into the ship as soon as he can.
Yeah, and you're in this cargo hold, and you can see that there's just junk thrown in here. There's no organization to it. There is piles of barely functioning weapons, rusty pieces of metal, trinkets, rotten food. You kind of, with a quick glance, disturbingly see the remnants of what is probably a human body that has very clearly been eaten. Bits and pieces, not on bones, just sort of thrown into a corner. It smells in here like rot and death. This is a ship not crewed by humans, clearly. There is something very monstrous and unnatural about where you are right now. And you also see in the corner of this room, there is a small, like iron case that is trimmed with that wood, that same wood that you saw on the Verloren ship. And there is a stamp on it that is the sigil of House Inuwa.
And it's right near me, Kurash?
Yeah, it's right in the corner of the room that you're in right now.
Excellent. I'd go to it.
You do so. As you do so, you hear movement behind you, and if you turn and look, there is a creature standing in the doorway, and it looks as surprised to see you as you do it. This creature is about the size of a small human, definitely smaller than you are, Kurash, but it's kind of crawling around on all fours, and as it kind of rights itself and looks at you, you see that it has 2 extra arms beneath its normal arms. You see it peer at you with 3 eyes in a tight cluster in the middle of its face that glow kind of this vibrant green. Drool drips from a toothy, underslung maw, and this thing lets loose this inhuman cry and brandishes a blade, charging towards you with it. Does a 19 hit you? I'm assuming it does.
It does. My armor class is a 17. Well, no, it's not. It's a 15 because I don't have magic armor.
You take 6 slashing damage as this creature slashes at you with a rusty short blade.
And you see the hide just split, and the white, pale hide of the beagle turns crimson in the area where it was sliced.
The creature then backs away from you, using a bonus action to disengage, and crawls backwards up the wall, sort of away from you, about 15 feet, still brandishing this blade. All right.
What color's Forgeborn blood there, Matt?
Well, it's black for sure, right?
Black. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah,
man.
it's got to be black.
All
I
right.
think.
Then
Yeah.
AP black.
Then it's not red. It's black. Good call.
Very cool. And you actually haven't taken a turn yet, Kurash, so I will let you take an action and attack this creature if you wish.
He jumped back. So Kurash, after getting struck, is going to pull this pale white pistol out of a holster against his leg, aim it at this creature. Have I ever seen a creature like this before in my life?
You likely have
Anything-
not, no.
And nothing in the memory banks. He pulls the trigger of his light pistol. 12 total.
12 to hit?
Yes.
Not quite enough to hit. This thing is it's incredibly quick and fast, and it's also wearing this kind of piecemeal armor. It actually looks very similar to the armor that you're wearing.
He sees it just fragment off of the creature, and he throws the pistol down and grabs the glaive with both hands.
Beautiful. All right. that was boarding phase. Okay, all right. And keeping it all in check here. All right, we're back at the top with the support phase. So, Randall.
All right. Now, are the whisperlinks, if they're not talking, can I kind of hear this happening? Or is it only when you transmit?
Or you know what? You can kind of decide if it's an open channel or if it's like push to talk.
Yeah.
You guys can tell me like what you decided for that.
And I feel like in a movie, it would just switch with convenience. like I can hear everybody and then I don't want to, and I'm talking just to Lloyd.
I imagine like in a fight like this, you guys would have an open channel because you don't want to be sitting there like, hang on, I'm in this high
really good point. I wouldn't be like, oh, wait, my gun,
yeah. Hang on, I'm getting another whisper link. Hang on.
Right. And I think especially too through these fields and the Astra and everything, it's probably a little spotty. So it's not like perfect, but it's just that, and then 5 seconds of crystal clear, and then So all of that to say, I would probably understand that they're in distress. I think we all would. So I'm just trying to think playtest wise and also roleplay wise, what would I do? Because this is a feeling of helplessness that doesn't typically come along with space combat. So, man, is there anything support role wise that I could do for them in the ship? Like I know the tech level in Harbinger probably isn't like a Scotty beam me a laser gun, but is there something I can't think of anything.
So what I'll let you do is you can use the sensors to scan for life forms and basically tell Kurash where the other creatures are on the ship.
That's good DMing. Matt, you're good at this. You should probably write a book. So I will do that.
Cool. So give me a sensors roll. So that'll be +4 or no, +3 because it's +1 from the ship and then +2 for your proficiency.
Perfect. Yep. And that is what I like to call a critical failure.
Oh no.
That is the onest one I've rolled in a long time because it like fell out of the dice tower with finality. It just went.
It didn't roll out. It was just like, yeah.
It was like it hit a 1 and slid down it like a dry slip and slide.
Scabby knees and everything.
Yeah, dude. So that's a hard one.
So you try to use the sensors, you try to use Sigma to reach out, but it's just with all of the Astra in the air and all of the ship moving and stuff, it's just like it's a blur to you. It looks like nothing. Can I make
a suggestion?
Do you want to hurt yourself?
No, worse.
He wants to hurt his crew.
I think that I'm pretty confident of the position of the things, but maybe I'm wrong. And I think that I would maybe give Kurash some wrong information. I just feel like that's probably the way to do it. And I know that that's the worst. Usually I hurt me. In this case, I am going to hurt someone else.
Perfect. Yeah. So essentially, if one of these things tries to get the jump on Kurash, it'll be able to because you're feeding him bad info. All right. That's support. Pilot. That's you, Briar. Excuse me. Sorry, that was horrible. I call that a pot sticker burp.
That was too astrofade.
Okay, so we've just flown past this thing. I do want to super pull the e-brake and ram the crap out of it.
Oh, yay!
I want to, but here's the thing. I want everybody to remember that I'm ramming the corpse of, because it's not moving. This is going to be an easy target. I'm going to ram this corpse, and it's going to, burst, probably, and, bits of it are going to fly off, and we're going to hit. It's going to be so cool.
So are you trying to ram the Golianar, or are you trying to ram the raid boat inside the Golianar?
I'm trying to ram the raid boat, but I imagine, the cavity on the front is where it was, but, the back, I'm just, kind of approximating where the ship is inside it because it wasn't moving.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So here's the deal. I'm going to read you this. All right. Ram is a special attack action that only a pilot can take. Targeting a void ship within your void ship's movement range, you can attempt to physically strike them with your hull. You make a maneuverability check opposed by the target void ship pilot's maneuverability check. If you succeed, you deal bludgeoning damage to both your void ship and the target void ship as dictated by your size. You are a medium void ship, so it'll be 2d10 bludgeoning damage.
That sounds awesome. Yeah. So the other thing, I don't know exactly how this part works, but I want to ram it so that we can board it.
That is exactly what ramming is for.
Okay, just making sure that I'm not like hit and run. I'm like, all right, we're like,
basically, after you ram a ship, you are grappling it. And then you can attempt to make it listless, which means you can board it.
Oh, yes. Attempt my arse.
Dude, these rules work. Oh my God. I can't believe it's working as well as it is.
Work really well.
I want to tinker with it a little bit, but holy shit.
Matt, it's feeling so good.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, I'm not bored at all. Everyone's doing stuff. I'm so happy right now.
So maneuverability of the ship is +2.
Yep. And then you add
and I get to add my proficiency. Okay, so that's a dirty 20.
What?
I got my first dirty 20.
That's
but
beautiful. I got a
13
14 on my roll.
Doing a dirt.
Okay, great.
Do you want to roll the bludgeoning damage that both the Nomad and the Raid Boat take, or do you want me to do it?
I would love to do it. Did you say it was a D10?
2d10.
2d10. And do I roll them separately? Does one take some, and can I do that? So that I'll roll mine first. Like basically, maybe they're different. I'd understand if they had to be the same.
If you want to roll them separately, you go for it. More power to you.
So we're gonna
wait for you to roll 20 full damage, and they get 2 or something.
I know. We're gonna do our ship first. We're gonna do the Nomad first. So here's the 10s. 2 10s. No, not so bad. 11. Okay. That's middling. That's like right in the middle. Here's that Raid Boat. Here's my 20, baby. Oh my God, 19. Oh, that's the best ever.
Hang on. What's 37 plus 19?
Plus or minus?
56.
30, 20.
56.
Okay, cool. You almost reduced their ship to 0 hit points. They're completely hobbled. So what does this look like as you ram this raid boat?
So I think the most important thing is we've just flown right under it. And based on the way I am picturing this sort of Goliath art, again, to me, is it more like skeleton, or does it still kind of have skin and corpse? Because I imagine they can't really see us.
It's mostly skeleton, but it has like some just desiccated flesh sort of hanging off of its bones.
So I imagine that the pilot of the raid boat, like you said, we play chicken. It doesn't expect that we go under it. And then they're kind of like, where'd they go for a second? And then before they realize it, sort of coming up on maybe the side and below them, we just ram right into them and come like right against it. And try and basically stop them. Dude,
I'm like, there's a movie or something where they're like, "Where is it?" And then it just comes
exactly
and rams into it. And I'm blanking on what movie it is, but I can like hear the sound of the ships crashing into each other, and that's exactly what happened. So I need everyone on the Scrug ship to give me a dexterity saving throw, please.
Oh God. Do we only have like magical healing, right? We didn't start with any drink potions.
Randall has a healing spheroid. Slide whistle. All right, so both Kai and Kurash, you manage to keep your footing as the ship lurches beneath you, and you just hear this as the ship just grinds along the side of the raid boat. The Scrug on the wall completely fails his check.
I like to think that this is very familiar to anyone that remembers the job.
Yeah, everyone's like, not again. I have about 15 tabs open, so give me 1 second here. I have stats for ships and creatures. How many hit points do you have, bro? This Scrug flies across the cargo hold, slams into the bulkhead, and you hear a snap as his neck just... and he just goes limp and falls to the floor.
Guys, the pilot got one.
Dude, you
can't... Pull your weight, scrubs.
You see a little XP come up above your head. You're like, I got one! All right. Damn, that was awesome. Okay, very cool. So the ship is now grappled, which what this means is its speed becomes 0 and it can't benefit from any bonus to its speed. On your next turn, James, you can attempt to make a grappled void ship listless. You make a maneuverability check opposed by the grappled void ship's pilot maneuverability check, and if you succeed, the grappled void ship becomes listless, which basically means it's dead in the water. You can basically do whatever you want with it. They have to repair it before they can get moving again. All right.
Yes.
Very cool. Okay. It is the gunner's turn. So Ansel, what do you want to do? You're basically point blank with the ship right now.
Yeah, like I imagine that they're like getting closer and closer, and Ansel's like over the wishbone, like you're getting a little close there. Oh, and then just like realizes what's happening, like braces himself as they, but then realizes that they're like basically right there, and he's just gonna try to take the cannon to the engines and just try to take the ship out. And that's going to be a 16.
That hits.
Yes. That is going to be 14 piercing. As just the gun is basically like right next to the ship, and he just like.
As you just saw through this ship with the pulsar cannon, the engines flicker and die, and the Scrug void ship becomes completely listless as it is reduced to 0 points. Actually, it's not even listless. It is
derelict,
it's
baby.
Derelict. Yeah, it has gained the derelict condition, which is basically unconscious for void ships. Which also means, hey, everyone aboard the Scrug Rage ship, you are now in a low oxygen, low grav environment. Hope you brought your breathers with you.
Yeah, we maybe should have considered this plan first because it's going great.
Hey, but now Lloyd doesn't need to teleport back over. He can just walk. He just walk across.
If he survives the low grav, low oxygen environment.
He can just die midway to here.
Oh my God. Okay. Okay, so we are technically out of void ship combat at this point. The enemy void ship is reduced to 0 hit points. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to move everyone over to the boarding phase, and we're just going to sort of shift into regular combat, if that's cool with everybody.
Yep.
Okay, so
Matt, that worked way better than it should have.
I'm a little fascinated by how well that first test went.
It felt so good.
There's definitely some dials there that I want to turn.
Sure.
And some actions I want to add and some other things.
Yeah.
But
yep, I'm right there with you.
From a high level, I thought that felt nice.
I agree, man. It feels really good.
Okay. These are rules that Tim started working on like 3 years ago. Okay. So Briar, Kai, Ansel. Okay. Yes. Briar, Kai, Ansel, Kurash, Scruggs, Randall. All right.
And I think it's notable that in the chat, Brayon Hopper made the really good point that James missed an opportunity to yell "Brace for impact."
Brace for impact, James. Yeah. Or alternatively, hold on to something.
Hold on to something.
Hold on to your butts.
Josh the other day was saying that my character should have a bunch of one-liners, and there were plenty of I mean, space. There's so many one-liners. We've got company.
Yep.
Like that one, I could have used that 2 times probably.
Yep. I said we've got company in the Jade Horde game, and I was really excited about it when I said it. And the company was an owlbear that ripped my arm off. So it was absolutely fitting.
Bad company.
Just direct cause and effect right there.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the shift is kind of weird here, but Briar, you're up first on initiative in the boarding phase. No, because you just went. So Briar went. So actually, Kai is up first.
Okay, so we're hit, and then I start to float a little bit, and the oxygen starts to fall apart. I'm gonna like reach into my pack, and I'm going to pull out like a mender syringe and just like jam that into myself as quickly as I can, and just like, and I'm going to roll a hit die.
God, there are menders in the basic gear kit. That's beautiful.
Jeff reminded me, which I'm very glad of. So that's a 5. So I'll get 5 hit points back, almost back to full. Nothing action. I'm going to run over to the tree, the box, and I'm going to call for Kurash. If he's close enough for me to touch, that'd be real convenient. If not, I'm just going to wait there.
He is right next to you.
Okay, then I'm going to grab him. I'm going to grab the thing, and I'm going to... So those we have to go out through the airlock, right? And the Scrugs in our way.
There are, yes. You already did your action to do the mender, though, right?
Void Slip's a bonus action, would you believe?
Void Slip's a bonus action. I wrote this game. Okay.
I wrote
Yes, you did.
That's another one of those
I was
things
just
we gotta
thinking.
talk about.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Okay, awesome. So is it because they're grappled, you don't need to spend the boost for the extra footage, so it'll be
Okay.
4 this time, 4 Astrofade.
Okay, but I'm also bringing the tree. Does that count as an extra thing?
No, you can bring the tree with you because all your gear and stuff comes with you anyway.
Okay.
So the tree does not count.
All right. So then another 4, which puts me at 8. And my limit is 3?
Yeah, so you're exceeding
Yeah.
by 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so roll me a d10.
Oh, Jesus. It's an 8. Oh, God.
Oh, no. Okay. Oh, no, you are not going to like this, man.
This was a fun campaign, guys. I'm really glad we did this.
Comes the specter of our ship.
Yeah. Where's my other... I'm
But
gonna
keep
say
your
something
full
I'm gonna
memories,
freak out. Where's
like-
my other d8?
It's under your desk.
It might be. I don't know where it went. Okay.
Your cat is using
The
it.
suspense is killing me.
Someone in the dark behind you.
So you take 12 force damage.
Jesus. Okay. I have 7 max HP, I think. Yeah. So I'm down for sure.
Yeah, you are at 0 unconscious. Death saving throw. Village population Lloyd.
So-
but now on the ship, on the Nomad, right?
Yes.
Right. That was what I was asking earlier. So spell happens, then the effect happens, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, the spells always go off no matter what, and then you have to suffer the consequences afterwards.
Okay, so here's what I think happens is I grab Kurash and I grab the thing, and then it's too quick and she's panicking a little bit. She's not going through her usual like routine, and she just like says it, and as she teleports back, like the tree box kind of like scrapes along the ground, as is Kurash, and she just slams into one of the walls of the ship at like insane force and is just immediately knocked unconscious.
And everyone on the bridge sees this because you guys are all still at your stations after having rammed the raid boat, and you see them both appear in the bridge along with this big iron crate.
Kurash takes no damage from this, I'm guessing, but if he's kind of flung across the floor, he's going to take a while to get up. So he's slow to get up for a bit.
Yeah, and you're definitely like, you've just been teleported twice in about
Yeah.
18 seconds, so you're
And I
feeling
fought a
little weird.
scrug for the 17 seconds in the middle. so, yeah.
Exactly,
rough.
exactly. All right, cool. So that was Kai's turn. It is now Ansel's turn.
Yeah, Ansel's going to like see them just like appear out of nowhere and just kind of like shake his head like it's just so much has happened. Like they just rammed the ship, then they like blew out the engine, and now their companions are back out of nowhere. But he's gonna try to kind of keep himself composed and move towards the kind of the like where if the Scrugs are gonna try to get to them, he's gonna try to get as close to that as he can and just ready to unload if Scrugs try to make their way onto the ship.
Perfect. Okay, great. Kurash.
He's going to crawl over towards Kai. He gets up to his feet, but slips on the floor of the ship and continues over until he arrives at her side, checks to see if she's alive.
She is barely alive. You feel the faintest of pulses.
I have no. I look down at my arc tools.
Yeah, and that's all you have, and you're pretty sure they won't work on this person that you've come to know as your master. All right, it's the Scrug's turn. I'm making a mental note of what they're doing. Okay, it's Randall's turn.
Oh, that was good.
So, what Randall would do
Fog
is
of war, baby.
fog of war, baby.
So ominous.
Dr. Smoke. All right, so I think I just imagine all of this happening at once, just the teleportation and the box, like you said, Lloyd, and just cinematically it like slides and is just that Danny Boyle angle where the box is like right at my feet. And I see this tree and there's a flicker of desire in Randall's eyes. And then I look up at you and I see the tree. And for that moment, I almost grabbed the tree, but instead I grab my spheroid and I fling it and it spins in the air and it stops sort of right over you. And it's just that cone, that flat laser of just seeking, finding, filling in these gaps, this Astra stitching together. But I don't know what force damage looks like. So I don't know what's happening in there, but somehow I'm trying to help you.
I imagine it's like all internal with force damage. There's like bruising and like hemorrhaging of like inside the body, but it's able to find it.
Yeah, and you have honestly, Matt, I didn't keep track of the number that I used on our friend there.
Yeah.
So I have a pool of hit points. I would have used as many. Yeah.
So you would have 5 in your pool currently at level
That's
1.
good. Yep.
If you want, I can say you used 2 of that to basically stabilize the guy and get him back up.
Sure.
So you'd have 3 left to use on Kai.
And you know me, I'd probably say I used 3 on him since he was so old and feeble, and 2 remain.
Yeah, which is enough to stabilize her and get her back up.
Yeah. So just, and it's probably that internal damage. It's not as easy as stitching up a wound.
Definitely. So as this happens, Kai, you are brought back to life very suddenly, and you find yourself on the bridge of the Nomad with this spheroid hovering above you.
Yeah, she's in agony. She can feel just like aches everywhere, and she would like look up and see the spheroid, but also Kurash like looking at her with like a tool, like he's not sure how to fix her, but she can like see the need and like the desperation to do so. And she would like, I guess she doesn't have eyes, right? So she can't even give him like a look. But there would be like a tiniest upturn in the corner of her mouth.
And then she would see him turn directly to Randall, and there's no words that come out of my mouth whatsoever, but you can tell that he's grateful.
And not really knowing how to interact with Kurash, I think. Because I think Randall's main concern is that he never wants to treat Kurash like he's stupid, even though he's not as experienced. But then he remembers how inexperienced he is himself, I think, in that moment. And so I think Randall would just smile.
And then we're hit with some debris or something from outside that rocks the whole ship, and everyone just kind of collapses against the walls.
And the sapling shakes ever so slightly.
There is a clang on the airlock of your ship. And you hear like tools being used outside. You hear grinding on the airlock. Briar, it is your turn.
So first I would call to someone. We see the chest. Has anyone made sure there's actually a tree in it, or it's just a wooden chest? Then
Yeah,
we're
no
not
one has
so
no
sure.
one has opened it.
So he would whisper Link whether they can do anything about it
Otherwise,
now.
like, there's nothing in there.
Well, but I'm like,
Some of us like and appreciate our story companions and our fellow crew a little bit more than the loot that we're trying to get from other ships. It's just a
Yeah.
weird thing, James. It's
well, I think it's for Briar. It's a lot more about, on the job when we opened the chest and we didn't think to check, and so now he's got a little bit more awareness before we leave this completely listless derelict ship that we have what we came for.
And that's a Briar move. Like that totally is. You're trying to make the sapling a weapon mod.
So he would,
pocket.
he would call back again whether or not they can do anything about it, and I would try and disengage from the ship. Possibly throwing these scrugs on the airlock free. Whatever I need to do that. To unram the ship and fly away.
You can you are the grappler and the ship is listless. So it would be no different than dislodging yourself from a corpse of a person that you just killed and they fell on top of you. So you're able to push off from this ship and go in any direction that you wish.
I understand why that is the analogy you used, but it was very funny. As though you're like, all the time when you kill someone and there's a corpse,
like
you just push
corpse
them
is
off.
on top of you, and it's like a head, but you're able to move it off. That sort of
No
thing.
problem.
no,
So yeah,
situation.
exactly. I would disengage, and I would call to Ansel. I would say something along the lines of, whatever the vernaculars, burn it, like just destroy everything about it. Again, hopefully doing like a spinny move so that any scrugs that are on there potentially fly off into space.
Perfect.
Drift.
Go ahead and give me a maneuver check if you would, please.
So 15 total.
Okay. All right, cool. And we could just narratively say, Ansel, as you guys are flying away, you put as many pulsar rounds into this thing as you can, and you just see it kind of breaking apart. Pieces just flying off of it, small explosions going off, and the ship just kind of like disappears into darkness within the corpse of this huge Golianar, and you leave the wreckage of it behind. And it's quiet on the bridge of the Nomad as you escape.
Briar would say to Sigma, pull up the sconce and I forgot the name of the place we were going, but I would want to go to Duergar.
Go to Daggerrad.
He would say, set a course for Daggerrad, and he'd get up and he'd sort of go and take stock of everything and look at it himself and, kind of see how everybody's doing and, probably hearing the commotion behind him, but worrying too much about the piloting.
You hear the sound of the lock being opened on the airlock. I need everyone to give me a dexterity saving throw, please. Anyone who got under 12, go ahead and take 3 bludgeoning damage as the airlock of the Nomad flies open. And everything just begins getting sucked out into the vacuum. Standing in the doorway of your careening void ship is a huge bestial humanoid with 4 arms and 3 glowing green eyes. You see it clamp the side of the airlock with its claws and heave itself in. You see these gigantic muscles just rippling beneath the fur as it pulls itself inside the ship. The airlock closes behind it. Everything slams down to the floor, and this thing pulls out an axe and then gets low and just goes and roars as it charges at you. Who got lowest? Okay, so Kurash, because you got the lowest dexterity saving throw, you got pulled closest to the airlock. You're the first creature this thing meets as it charges in.
Yeah, Kurash just flies towards the airlock and is prone, trying to get back up and away from this creature, but he's already so close to it, just right next to it, basically looking upward and seeing how massive this thing is.
And you're going to take 4 slashing damage from this war axe as it just cleaves into you and then yanks it out.
And this is it hasn't been too long since the the ship we just blew up, correct?
No.
There hasn't been a screen wipe just in the past
It's
12 seconds. That might have been.
it's been about 12 seconds since you escaped. Yeah.
All right, great.
And,
Well,
Would
you
you count
see-
12 seconds as a long rest?
Yeah.
Oh man, you see Kurash just get cut down and immediately fall completely limp, and he sees a gleaming golden city of skyscrapers.
All right. Briar, you're up first. There's a monster on your bridge.
So, Briar would pull out that spheroid. So Briar would, turn after the airlock goes. He was strapped in. I imagine that's why he did so well. He unstraps himself. He's got a scatter gun out, and he sees Kurash go down, and he immediately, pulls out his spheroid, small floating sort of chrome finished sphere, with maybe this one having I think blue circle on it, and he would roll it over to Kurash, and it would float around him and begin giving him back 5 hit points. And then with that, he would just kind of Briar, having used his action, would aim his scattergun at this creature from sort of the doorway of the bridge where he is.
Beautiful. Kai.
So Kai would she's lying on her back and she's so exhausted. She's been near death so many times already. And she's got all this blue astra flowing through her from all of the mending that's going on. But nonetheless, she'll pull herself up, leaning against the wall, and she's going to channel some astra and fire an astra bolt. Luckily, that doesn't cost me any astra fade, or else I might explode.
You're like, I'm going to use all 3 boosts.
Yeah.
He's like, let's play test this astra table, baby.
It's going to be a 15 total.
I think that hits. Yes, just barely hits.
And of course, I didn't get a D8. 5. Do I add my? Yeah, 5 damage.
So this Astra just slams into this thing. It staggers back 1 step and then continues stalking forward. Ansel.
Yeah, Ansel immediately reaches down to his belt, pulling out a gun. He opens up the compartment and there's no bullets in it though. But he holds a hand out, a reddish glow, as some Astra jumps from to the barrel gun, which he snaps the compartment shut. There's a quick spin around Singer style before firing an Astra bolt of his own. I am going to use a boost to do double D8s.
Awesome.
And that's a 19 to hit.
Definitely hits.
All right, and I nearly rolled max damage. It's 15 force.
What? Oh my god.
D8.
So go ahead and describe what it looks like as you kill this thing.
Is the airlock still open?
The airlock is closed.
Okay.
Yeah, so he sees this thing climb in. There's the bolt that Kai sends kind of blasting into it. He just spins around the gun, takes the shot. There's this just pulse of red Astra that just slams this thing just right in the side of the head. It's sending its head knocking back, just sending its body just tumbling to the side from just the sheer force, just slamming down, just crumpling under the ground. and he would kind of just like spin the gun back around in his hand before putting it right back on his belt. One shot, and just kind of like nod with a wicked smile.
Awesome. I love that. I love that your Astrobolt is your like cowboy Astrobolt. That's so awesome. This creature falls to the ground with a heavy thud as it falls to the grated floor. It was carrying in its forearms an axe, a shield, and a scattergun, which all fall to the floor as it topples. It gives a last as it dies. And you see these like, they're like sacks of air sort of in its throat, like deflate as it dies.
Mumbling to himself is Kurash as he regains consciousness in subtle whispers that can barely be discerned. Temperature, balance, response. Motivation, balance, response. Emotion, language, perception, abstraction. Balance, response. And he slowly stands up and looks at this thing that's healing him, I guess, still, and then looks over to the creature that's dead and makes sure that it's dead, and it absolutely is.
It occurs to Briar yet again that he could have said, "We've got company."
He would have had to yell it like over the sound of vacuum.
Yeah, they're like, "What?" He's
put
like,
helmets
"Trust
together.
me.
I
Yeah.
said we've got. Never mind. Let's just
Never
fight it
mind.
first.
Never mind. Have a spheroid."
Okay, you cover me. No, that's not what I said.
There is a as you go over to the body to make sure it's dead, Kurash, you notice something about this creature. You notice as it dies, the green glow to its eyes kind of fades, and you sort of spot this kind of green glowing nodule sort of on the back of its neck, sort of just beneath its ear, that also dims as it dies.
Kurash strides over to the creature's ear, reaches behind it, and tries to disengage whatever that was from the creature.
It is attached to it, but with your strength, you're able to pull it free. It's long enough that it seems like it was maybe connected to this creature's spine as you pull it out. It is a small but somewhat complicated looking device covered in gore as you pull it out. There's a small green light on the end of it that is now dim, and it appears to be made of the same wood that the man's staff was made out of that was on the Valoran ship, this Skybreach wood.
Is it a weapon mod? No. Kidding.
It appears to be some sort of necrograft. You have never seen anything like it, although the mechanist may have some insight.
So might
Yeah.
the hero manger, hero tiramisu, might know.
Wow, your cat just Spider-Man right up that mattress behind you. That was
You
terrifying.
guys
That
better
was
make
amazing.
sure that tiramisu is okay. He was in a cabin in the back. He's probably tossed around like a dinosaur lasagna.
Best interaction. That was the best interaction. He's like, "Yeah, hero haka tiramisu."
Because I was trying to, yeah. So I was trying to look in the chat where he mentioned it. So I'm just like, stall. Oh God.
Is your chat a sleeper agent that is activated by the word
James,
tiramisu?
there's a scrug in your room. It's attacking you.
Tiramisu.
But you would see Kurash just kind of someone would see Kurash just staring at this item. Maybe the mechanist.
Yeah, I would seeing him, wrench it from this thing. I imagine it's not a quiet or a delicate process. I would go and see if I had seen anything like it, and potentially mention to someone, "Hey, go check on the other guy."
Give me a tech
Because
check.
I don't think I have tech, and I got a 4. Do I have tech? I don't think I do.
You're a mechanist. You should have tech.
I didn't know that. That's not one of the ones I picked.
Doesn't seem like a class appropriate skill.
It does, but I got astrogation and medicine. I don't know. I picked some.
Dude,
So
I
what'd
use
you
my
roll?
rolled a
expertise on
4.
tech all day.
You have no idea what this is. It's definitely a necrograft, a sort of cybernetic enhancement using necrotech, but you're not sure what it does or why it was inside this creature.
And Randall would actively avoid it because he's not used to this. You just pulled a gore-soaked piece of technology based on death from a gorilla man. And so I think I would actually go check on Hiro Yui.
Masahiro.
That's a hero. Hero
Oh, thank
Yui.
you.
He's back there fixing his Gundam
He is.
in his bike shorts.
I forgot who that was.
No, and for the record, I have it on my little notepad. What his real name was.
So you go back
Just so
and
it's not a joke.
as you go back to check on him, he's actually like kind of stumbling out of his cabin, where he was sort of like belted in, made sure that he was secure back there. He's kind of rubbing his head. Is everyone okay? It seems like we're away from the danger now.
We'll manage. We ran into some trouble, but it's neutralized now. I wanted to come and check on you.
I'm fine, a bit tossed about, but it's not the worst thing that's happened to me today.
All right. Well, do you need some water or anything else?
Did you recover the seedling?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, we recovered the box. I didn't look in the box.
I should check it. I should make sure that it's all right.
Well, come on, you can. It's important that you rest, though. But come on, and I would sort of help him to his feet.
He comes out. He's sort of leaning on you with his weight, and as you walk into the bridge, he sort of, as he sees the scrug dead on the ground. That's one of the things that, yes, that's what they look like. And then he would look to the box, and he would sort of collapse in front of it. And he would undo the latches and lift it. And you would see inside this box that there's this sort of ornate looking pot made from the same wood. And there's a tiny little sapling growing out of this rich earth. It's safe. It's safe. And he gets misty-eyed. Thank you. Thank you. I understand this is I understand the rules of salvage. This belongs to you, but if you were to sell it back to my sept, you would be very well compensated. Thank you.
Sounds like we're finally g'day then. Finally something good.
I imagine that Karash is still holding up this gore-covered device, and I would sort of point him to it, like, "Hey, do you know anything about this?" And specifically the fact that it seems like it's this wooden kind of tech.
He would look at it. Can I see it?
Kai clicks her fingers so that Kurash hands it over.
He would hold his hand out. Are you all right?
He would hand it over immediately
He would
upon
take
Kai's
it,
words.
look it over, sort of like flicking off the gore that comes off of it. This is unfamiliar tech to me. It is, well, it's made from skybreach wood, but I have never seen anything like this. I'm sorry I can't be of more help. Where did you find this?
Kurash looks to the creature.
Oh. I can only fathom what this might be. If we take a sapling to my people beyond Daggerad, perhaps our mechanists can share some insight into it. Maybe they will know more.
What's the name of the sept he's from?
Inuwa.
Inuwa. So, Briar would say, looks to me like Inuwa was in possession of the seedling. Are you sure this was not an inside job? Are we walking into a trap here with this thing?
We, Verlorens, follow a path known as the Breath. We hold sacred life, the natural order of things. This thing goes against everything we believe in. This is necrotech. We do not dabble in such things. If it was created by a Verloren mechanist, it was not one that holds fealty to Sept Inuwa. I can promise you that.
Is necrotech something pre-Harbinger or?
It is pre-Harbinger, yeah, but it's kind of like grown by leaps and bounds with the arrival of the Harbinger.
Because Briar would, of course, mention, something along the lines of maybe somebody from Sept Inuwa feels a little differently now. Now that the Harbinger has destroyed it, and I don't know, maybe tying it to some religion, the idea that maybe somebody's sort of diverting because they feel like whatever it is, this breath has betrayed them or something to that effect. And sort of just more just kind of throwing that out there like, don't trust everything you hear kind of thing.
It's possible, of course, and, well, this thing might be from the Harbinger as well. I've never seen a creature of its like before.
So these scrugs wouldn't be something that we often see, or they're not like
you may have
anything
heard.
you hear of.
You may have heard rumors about creatures such as these, but you've definitely never encountered them before. The Harbinger crashed into Valoran about a year ago, and so all of these things are they're still new.
So with that, I think Briar would, seeing kind of everybody that's okay, everything's good. He's got the, this box. Briar would, set a course for Daggerad where they were originally going and begin heading there.
On the way there, Kai will pull Kurash into her quarters. She needs to rest, and she's exhausted. And she'll get in there and she'll close the door and just sit on the mat that is her bed. And she'll take a deep breath and say, "Tell me again of the Golden City."
And Kurash's eyes close, and he begins to describe the horizon of golden spires, the spider web of highways, leagues built into the sky, and the sparkling blue atmosphere that glistens over a populace that lives on the edge of space.
And she'll hear the low tone of Kurash's voice, and it centers her. It's a good way for her to become calm. And then once she has become calm, she will reach up to a brooch on the side of her robes and simply press it, and Kurash will be shut down.
Yeah.
The Nomad, hobbled somewhat from its battle with the Scrug raid boat, limps its way across the void of space, passing again by the corpses of ancient warships, past uninhabited moonlets, leaving the bleeding eye at its back. And on the horizon, or what would be a horizon in space, because there is no horizon in space, the tiny yellow blip of the moon of Daggerad appears. And the Nomad makes its way there. Somewhere else, thousands and thousands of leagues away, drifts a Valoran stealth ship, larger than the one that was decimated by the Scrugs. Within this ship's innards, there's darkness. Not a single light gleams. It is black. A woman sits in a chair. There are spheroids crafted from that same wood encircling her, orbiting her. A Scrug approaches from behind her, the green light on its neck blinking as it shuffles forward and puts a glancer on the arm of her chair. She reaches out without looking and holds up the glancer as the gaseous astra creates an image of the Nomad floating. She holds it up, and the spheroids come in close to look at it. She looks up, and you see that her face is covered with this skull-like mask, completely devoid of eye holes. The spheroids look for her, see for her. She sets down the glancer, leans back in the chair, and with her thoughts, she commands the Scrugs aboard the ship to set a new course. And that is where we will end our session for tonight.
Nice. Awesome.
That was some of the most fun I've ever had playing an RPG. That was so much
good.
fun. Oh my God.
Love when stuff happens in space,
So
man.
good.
Yeah, dude.
James, guess what? It's like all in space, man.
I
Everything's in
know.
space in Harbinger.
That's the thing. I even count it when it's like on a moon because
Yeah.
space is right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Different. It's different when you're. It's different when you're just on a castle because I'm like, well, space is there, but
Yeah, you can't get there. You can't get
you
up
can't get there. But I'm like, dude, I could just jump in a ship,
Yeah, exactly.
go to space.
Oh man. Okay. So we've run a little long. We're butting up right against 4 hours here, so I'm not going to keep these guys very long. But I want to thank everyone for tuning in and for watching. I had an absolute blast. I cannot wait to play again. I'm going to coordinate with these guys and talk about repairing the ship, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, that was awesome. I'm so glad the ship combat rules worked. We got to play around with the Astrofade tables. You guys teleported onto a ship and grabbed something and then teleported back. And I'm just so excited about all of that happened. So thank you guys for playing. Please subscribe to all these guys if you're not already. Their links to their channels are down in the description. You can also download the Harbinger playtest down there as well. So I'm going to let these guys do their outros, and then we're going to be done for the night. So thank you again, everybody. And we'll play again here soon. So we're going to go reverse order. Tim, go ahead.
So I'm Tim. I am actually half of Tabletop Terrors and 1/4 of Absolute Tabletop. And it has been a genuine honor working on the Harbinger rules with Matt. And Matt does an incredible job of directing the tone and the feel. And I am so excited to be. I've never play tested a rule set that I was helping to write. And Matt, you have such a solid handle on the mechanics and how you want them to work. And it feels really good as me as a player, not Tim who helped with the rules, but that felt seamless. And I can't wait to get the next version of the playtest in everybody's hands, which will be sooner rather than later. But thank you, man. This is just another killer campaign, and I'm so glad I'm a part of it.
Absolutely, man. I'm glad you're a part of it too. And yeah, those spaceship combat rules would not even be in existence if it were not for Tim. He laid such an awesome foundation on that and has been working with me so closely on that. So yeah, super awesome. All right, Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Jeff. I have a YouTube channel. It's called Encounter Balance. I'm actually going to be running a game just on this Saturday in Lloyd's Isclaft setting that he's going to be in as well. So check that out if you're interested in seeing some crazy Viking stuff. I also do a podcast with Jeremy, Lilly, and Chad Nick called The Dudes of Yore. So check that out as well. And yeah, this was just one of the, like you said, one of the most fun times playing that I've had. This such a great setting with such an awesome rule set and one of the best groups that you can ask for. So it was just a really damn good time. I'm so happy to see where this goes.
Absolutely, man. All right, Lloyd, go ahead.
I'm Lloyd. I am 10/10 of the channel Jarl DM, and I run a game every Monday that's set in Middle Earth that Bark is in. I run other games every second Monday that Matt is in. I run games every Tuesday. Just a game every day. I don't know. This is fucking great. I got to do weird space magic, which I'm so into. Just so into. I almost exploded like 3 times. Yeah, and I love that. Like, I was able to suggest things in the middle of this game, and you were like, "Yep, that's a rule." You know, it's just fucking great.
Yep, we'll have to write that spell in between sessions so
Yeah.
you can do it next time. Awesome. All right, James.
So my name is James. I am 1/4 of Absolute Tabletop, 1/2 of Tabletop Terrors, 1/3 of These Starving Cats, and 1 whole Sleepy Boy. But like everybody said, this was really awesome. I'm very excited. I'm so happy. I do really love sci-fi and space. So as much as I love something like fantasy, 5th edition D&D, this is like definitely the thing I've been waiting for. So I'm really excited. I also love campaigns for stuff like that, fixing the ship and getting weapon mods and all of the cool stuff that comes between. So I'm really excited for this.
Cool, man. All right, Barker.
My name is Barker, and I couldn't say it better than James. 1 whole Sleepy Boy. This game was, again, as other people have said, some of the best fun I've had in a campaign. I love science fantasy. I loved the moment when the ship hit the other ship, the dude hit the other dude, and everything just went crazy. I loved the teleporting. It felt like an action sequence in a film. And then it had like the overall layers of Matt Click everywhere, like the cool Nemesis scene that we get at the end, and just the big boss that just like jumps in and wrecks shop, and obviously being able to play with these naval rules. Tons of great stuff. I run the YouTube channel Be a Better Game Master, and I write books in that vein as well, one of which is brand new, and it's over at Absolute Tabletop right now. But thank you, Matt, for running this game. Super excited for all future sessions of this one.
Awesome, man. All right. Thank you, everyone, again for tuning in. We'll be back with another session sooner rather than later. And I can't remember what my sign off was going to be. It was something like, "Hey, don't go in the Harbinger. There's monsters."
Don't go in the Harbinger.
Don't go in the Harbinger.
that,
There's
yeah.
monsters. So
Yeah, and
that's what it's going to be.
No, and contrasting with the intro, it's kind of like a bookend.
Yeah, exactly. So don't go in the Harbinger. There's monsters. All right. Good night, everybody.